Ty and I wandered downstairs when it was time to cook, and we sized up the kitchen together. Okay, so... burgers. Yep. Do you know how to make burgers? Well, yeah, we just meat, pan, sizzle. Hooray! Burger! Sandwiches? Sandwiches. Alright, cool. So grab me an onion and I'll get to work putting this stuff together so we can get cooking. Kinda wish there was an outdoor grill, though. What, like back home? Nothing beats good barbecue. It's been a while since... Anyway, I guess it's been a while. Maybe when you get back? What? Like, let's have a welcome home barbecue when you're back from the trip. We could do burgers and hot dogs and just, I don't know, we can make a thing of it. You know? Yeah. Let's do it. It'll be another reason to come home, too, huh? Yeah. Plus it means I can practice so you're not the one using the grill all the time. What, preparing for when you're a housewife? I'll have you know that it's the man's job to do the barbecue. What, you're gonna make me cook after I get back from my trip? You're lucky you're family, otherwise I'd be asking for something as payment. I did a double take, huffing as Ty laughed it off, shaking his head. For the briefest of moments I thought he meant something else, but maybe that's exactly what he wanted in order to rile me up. Let's not make jokes about exchanging sex for things, if in this route. When dinner was done and blah 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 blah. Perhaps it was just after trying to figure things out, it seemed less impossible. There was one final test though, and that was where I headed after dinner. Okay, so let's see. I had my notebook in hand. I flipped through the pages as I stood in front of the keypad. Almost a week ago, Roswell and I were right here trying to piece together something. He tried a whole bunch of words, but nothing. I reached over and typed in each of our names. Nothing. I then tried the old passwords again to see if there was any change, and again, they weren't what I was after either. So what do I know about the vault? Sometimes talking out loud helped. Getting all of your thoughts in one place and just laying everything out. No one else was down here as far as I could tell, and I even closed the door to the room I was standing in. Autumn said the vault worked through trauma, I guess. That's right, the vault brings up memories of traumatic events, apparently. Stuff that had apparently survived through. The funny thing is that, like, I could be wrong because there's 1 billion text in this game, but I swear that this was never. I swear this was either never told to us, or it was just so understated that it like was weirdly emphasized to the point where like I think we didn't understand that we were supposed to think the vault worked this way until like day 15 or something, when they started referring to it weirdly regularly as if it was established.
What, it just said it works through trauma?
Yeah. Like, I think...
I think
they're claiming that Oswin literally said this to us, like, during the CG scene in the library. And I'm like, I don't know if he did.
Oh, I don't remember that. I mean, I knew that it worked through trauma due to the one, basically this description that was like, the vault brings up memories of traumatic events. And because I remember us being like, it's just the morphogenetic field. Yeah. I get it. But... the thing that was confusing to me was all of the logic around, like, the vault is programmed in to do this, and it's seen this. It's the way that it's all laid out, like, multi-dimensionally, that kind of confuses the shit out of me because I don't think it actually works or makes any sense.
No. It's also just been really underexplored, the idea that certain people are programmed for it, because, like...
yeah.
It's like
why does the genetics matter?
I mean, ignoring that, just the fact, the outcome of it. It's like, okay, Orlando and Roswell are in this vault, too?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
When I just, that didn't, like,
it doesn't matter
manifest
at all.
in any functional way. Like,
yeah.
Speaking, like, I referred to All You Need Is Kill when we learned that fact originally with Orlando, and, like, that story does grapple with the fact that a second character is also experiencing loops and what that means and what that how that works. Yep. And the most we got was Roswell being like, he started speaking in the past tense a couple times, like, oh, this can't be how it went, or something. Yeah. That's it. That's it for the entire game, as far as I could tell, for the entirety of Route V. They just, that's the amount of depth they got from that, is they eventually remembered to refer to the fact that it was happening, which is not amazing.
I'm still kind of lost on some of the specifics of something, and this is just something I kind of want to mention, and it's like, we're told Memphis can't use the vault, but Orlando can use the vault. And then we're told that any descendant or DNA is fine, and that's why Roswell and maybe even Dave have access to the vault. So shouldn't Memphis be able to use the vault?
I think it's just that Memphis doesn't have
trauma,
anything to use it with.
Yeah.
Especially since, like, I guess after Memphis found the vault, he then dies. That's it. That's the end of everything. Yeah. There is no resonate chance, because you get a game over when you die as Dave too. But like, what stands out to me a little bit is that I guess somebody in the Discord asked Grizz about, like, so, like, does Memphis have, like, trauma, or, like, does he have, like, something, some dark thing that drives him, or something humanizing or whatever? And I guess the response was basically like, no, he's just an evil asshole that likes crime and violence, and he's evil, basically. Which, if that is right, then that's a little rough, because you kind of hope that your character, like, even if it's really tropey, you'd be like, oh, maybe he has, like, a dead wife that he wishes he could bring back to life, and that's, like, the thing he's holding on to. Like, it doesn't have to make him a good person, or even that, especially, like sympathetic necessarily. It's just like, here is a thing to drive somebody. They lost this thing, or they have this thing they want to undo that drives them, and that's why they want a time machine so bad. But I guess there's nothing driving him to want a time machine besides the fact that it makes him more powerful. And so not only does that mean he doesn't have any depth to
he's
explore.
Somehow a worse Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah.
He just wants to be evil.
Like, he ends up, it gives him no depth if that's the case, because there's just nothing to him as a character. But yeah, that would mean he couldn't use the vault, because there is no thing to draw from, although I think the trauma also has to be at the vault. So yeah, why can't you use the vault to undo sexual assault, since that's there's adding other traumas to the narrative that take place here? Is the only thing that counts as trauma witnessing other people's corpses? It just seems like a doobie. Why doesn't the vault trigger when Jack attacks Dave, but he lives? It's traumatic. It's really traumatic. It freaks him out for the rest of the game. It's actually the most overtly traumatic event in the entirety of Password, is being attacked by Jack in the woods, and that having a continual effect on Dave's psyche for the rest of the game. And the vault doesn't undo that. Yeah. So the explanation for the vault just doesn't work. Like, yeah, we've explored why it's the time part, the actual time travel-y-ish timeline stuff is messy. But like, even especially the in-game, that. But the explanation of it being traumatic is also not. It doesn't work, because it's explicitly has to be traumatic things that don't kill Dave. But it's not. It's exclusively other people dying. It's not traumatic events. There's even, like, not especially traumatic versions of finding corpses as much as you can for your friends and whatnot. Like, Benson's death is like, oh no.
Oh yeah, I forgot that Benson's death.
Yeah, Benson's death causes one, and it's like, you don't really know Benson. Like, it's upsetting to find it's scary
to find a corpse.
Yeah. But like, that's also like a version of Dave that has already had to process visions, at the very least, of multiple dead people that week, and lost his father a while back. I'm not saying that, I'm not going to just assume it's not traumatic to find a body. I'm just saying that, like, that it starts to feel a little tenuous when finding Benson dead and not witnessing the violence and so on is like, that's traumatic enough to cause the vault. But being sexually assaulted by your closest friend and being chased by a murderer through the woods isn't enough to trigger the vault. Like, it's just, the logic doesn't clock. It's just nothing really means anything. Like, you just kind of keep having to, like, ultimately be like, it's Zero Escape. Remember Zero Escape? And you backfill the logic from the other thing that was I hate to say, but more coherent, and I'm not always in love with Zero Escape, but there's things that I had a clearer understanding of. That's right, the vault brings back memories of traumatic events, apparently. Stuff that I'd apparently survived through. Apparently. Apparently? Get through one screen of text without repeating the same word 2 to 3 times, challenge impossible. That might narrow down the list of things this could be then, but still. Looking at my notebook, I went through everything that had happened so far today. Not really much in the way of solid leads or even anything remotely coming to mind as far as who was behind it except for one thing. Sentence. Not really much in the way of solid leads or even anything remotely coming to mind as far as who was behind it except for one thing. What if it's Benson? It's Sal. He was outside the entrance of the library for some reason, but why was he there? Was he just a harmless wander? Was it just a harmless wander, or does someone send him there? I do know that he went to bed after I told him to go, so maybe that counts as a suggestion? Even then, what's the worst he could do? I shook my head. There wasn't enough to go off of with just that alone. I needed something more. Maybe if I think about the other passwords, what the other passwords had in common? Which would mean then... Is there a pattern? Yes, I hope. I'm going to say, I mean, the answer is no, but the game's answer is yes. There is, the game wants me to say yes, there's a pattern with how the password in Vault works, but we've unpacked that. There had to be, but what? Was it cause of death? Was it the type of word? As I strained to think about any common thread to predict the next one, maybe the pattern was a little too obscure for me to be figuring out with what I had so far. Staring at the keypad wasn't helping. I had to put something in to at least get me started. What was the worst thing I could think of? What was the worst thing that could happen? Breathing in deep, I reached out to input something. That is like the most explicit discussion and attempt to like have Dave think about the vault and its logic and mechanics we've ever had, and I guess we missed it because we were on Sal's route. And so I think this is the Massacre ending split, and we couldn't have it with Sal, so we just didn't get this whole conversation that discusses the Massacre ending as a concept, or that has him discussing the vault in this way. Let's see. Yep, no, it is the Massacre. But we have to see the bad end. L. I pressed L because we're taking an L right now. A familiar angry beep sounded when I confirmed my entry. With a sigh, I backed away from the keyboard and chewed on my notebook. It was fine, nothing was working, right? This just meant nothing bad was going to happen. Right? I made my way back. I'm just... In my brain, in the way that humans process time badly, I'm like, the Sal ending wasn't that long ago, right? It was day 10? I was all the way back on day 10? That was quite the gap. That was 15 days ago in our original playthrough. I made my way to my bedroom and ran my hands... I don't know why I'm reading this. So... Ty. What's got you so jumpy? I'm just tired, that's all. Get your ass into bed. I need to explain how I'm not a worthy boyfriend again. I will. Ty shut off the light, and I stripped down to my underwear, standing before the bed, as Ty came back over and hugged me from behind, leaving his hands on my waist. Are we doing this? Are you too tired? Do you have a headache? I don't know. No pressure, pup, if you ain't ready. No, I want... Well... He rested his chin on my shoulder, moving his hands up to my chest. Really? No. You're right. I'm still not sure what I want. He pulled away and I turned to face him. Don't worry about it. Let's just get some sleep. Okay. We jumped in bed and cuddled for a bit until Ty fell asleep. For me, though, I lay there with my thoughts, listening to him snoring. I don't know how long it took for me to get to sleep, but it did happen. Path C.
We're in a new path.
Wonder what that means. What sleep I got was restless, despite the comfort of the bed. Everything running through my head kept me from staying down for too long. I sat up suddenly in bed, having heard a crash somewhere in the house. Ty yawned and sat up next to me, shooting me an annoyed look. What? Shh, listen. The next moment we heard a scream, a panicked yell coming from somewhere in the mansion. The fuck? Ty and I jumped out of bed and rushed out of the room to join the others. What's happening? There was no sense in asking, but my panic prompted the question in any case. It seemed a few of us were in shock of what we were seeing. Roswell was on the ground, trembling, and he looked injured. Sal, on the other hand, looked to be in a trance, hands gripping an axe. The axe! It pays off in every route except for his
than the route where he has the axe.
It's his iconic weapon from
his iconic
when you
weapon.
Don't do his route.
Yeah, because it's cool. This is cool. It's so cool.
Well, it's his iconic weapon of when he murders all of your friends.
This isn't something I've said a few times. Sorry, I smelled like popcorn.
You're right.
Bacon. I'm smelling bacon being cooked. That's what it is. It was a very alarming smell for a second. So the thing that this game is making me feel is sort of a feeling that I have in general about visual novels, but if your visual novel doesn't need choices, just don't put choices in your visual novel. I know I've said it 100 times, but like, so much of this game's routing feels like it was made to like very specifically reference and talk about other routes. And you would think that's interesting because it makes you want to be like, oh, like maybe if I play another route, I'll get payoff for this little thing. But like almost every single reveal so far that we've gotten from doing like a different route or going through a different bad end has just been something where I'm like, oh, we just should have seen this first. Like, it's just, there's no reason. This isn't like a clever little, oh, we're seeing the other side of the mystery. It really is just, oh, we just should have seen this first. Yeah. So visual novel makers in the audience who want to make an indie visual novel because you think it's an easy way to make a story, one, you're wrong, it's not. And two, just don't put choices in if you don't have to. If you have a specific order you want players to experience your thing in, just make it necessary. You don't need to give people choices. You don't. That's not what makes these games. That's not the point. If you're not designing this as a specific game, then do not put choices in it. It is okay to just make it a kinetic novel. In fact, it will probably improve the final product. Like, there's no need for it.
When I workshop my ideas, it actually is like, it's the idea of like, here's 3 routes, but you play them end to end like near automata instead of picking one at random and just hoping you experience the story correctly. Instead, the choices are like horror fun, like, oh god, how do I survive this scenario? And then if you pick the wrong answers, you die horribly and try again. And it's just like some fun little moments, but it's probably just like a linear story of just where just you can die and then be like, oh fuck, and then because that's where you get to have consequences in a horror narrative is like a fun way to do that without having to kill off countless characters and keep moving forward with that.
Yeah.
Roswell was on the ground, trembling, and he looked injured. Sal, on the other hand, looked to be in a trance, hands gripping an axe, dripping with something viscous and red. Is that? Whoa, Sal, what are you doing? As Dean made a go for the axe, Sal shoved him back, but Dean didn't budge. Sal, what the hell you think you're doing? I was frozen in place, eyes looking to Roswell. The longer I looked, the more I noticed that he was bleeding, and quite a bit, too. Guys, what should we...
Help Roswell, obviously.
But before any of us could move, Dean yelled out in pain.
Oh no,
Oh,
he's killing his
no.
best friend.
His best friend! How could this happen? Dean looks like a different character. Why does Sal look angry? Isn't he supposed to be in a trance? Like he's not supposed to be acting with intent, which would be creepy.
Yeah.
He was stumbling back, clutching his shoulder where it seemed Sal had bitten him, blood dripping from the wound on Dean's shoulder and from Sal's teeth. I was frozen, watching as Sal reared back with the axe, and in the next moment, a pained yell echoed through the foyer, drowned out by the sickening squelch as the axe was removed from Dean's neck. He fell to the floor in a heap, heavy, but most importantly right on top of Roswell. Dean's yell was replaced by the panicked squealing from Roswell as he tried to scramble away but was now pinned by Dean's corpse. Ty held me behind him, acting as a shield between me and Sal. Haas and Orlando were holding each other's hands, with Orlando clinging further to Haas's arm, both horrified to what they'd yet seen. So much for help Roswell, obviously. When Sal turned back to Roswell, something in me broke. Freeing my feet so I could move, I shoved Tyson aside and scrambled to close the distance. He made to grab out from me, but the shot gave me enough time to get out of reach. Roswell! Dave's the proactive one. Whoa. I reached out and he reached out for me as Sal raised the axe.
Dave!
But it was the last thing he said as the axe came down and silenced him for good. Maggie! Sorry. I stood there shaking, partially covered in the spray of blood that rose from the impact. As calmly as he'd done to Dean, Sal withdrew the axe from Roswell before turning to me. Sal said nothing, but Tyson was soon to cross the floor and stand in front of me again, working himself up for a fight. Orlando shuffled forward, having peeled himself away from Haas, closer to Sal. Sal, why? Why did you... As much as I tried to reach out to Orlando, Tyson was much better at keeping me away from this time, but it seemed as though Sal made no effort to pursue me or even Orlando. Silence. Nothing but silence. For the faintest of moments, I thought maybe Sal would raise his axe against Orlando, but instead it slipped from his hand, landing with a clatter on the floor. Sal? He stared through Orlando, and sure enough, he wandered away, heading outside through the back door and into the yard beyond. Orlando collapsed into a heap on the floor, passing out. There were no words. Sal had just killed Dean and Roswell. It was all I could smell. And as I wiped my face, I looked at my hand, covered in Roswell's blood. My eyes went to their bodies, still on the floor, and all I could do was stare at the carnage. A massacre, indeed.
This isn't a massacre. What? A massacre is... No.
Yeah, I don't think
okay.
I don't think two bodies it can be called a massacre.
No. No, it cannot. Alright. It's... Okay. That's fine. What do we...
Call the fucking cops. Now.
Right.
While Haas fumbled with his phone, and Tyson was busy yelling at him for something, I wandered off. I let my body go on autopilot to head towards the only other person I knew existed in the house that might know something if they weren't already watching.
I'm sitting here and I'm struggling because people told us, oh, you shouldn't do the Sal route's bad because you missed the massacre ending, and the massacre ending is like such a big, incredible, amazing moment. And this is it? This is it? This is the massacre ending? That was like the most flaccid murder scene I have ever read. What? Oh. I mean, maybe it'll go on. Maybe we'll get like more people just slaughtered by Sal as he gets up and kills everyone or something. But this was the high that people wanted us to feel.
I don't remember.
Oh my
I don't know if I remember
God.
people saying that, but I guess I might have remembered people saying.
People said that in our Discord. They were like, you have to see the Massacre ending. It's like, it's really interesting, and it's a bummer that the B route and the Sal route, like, you don't even get to see it. So it's
If
like,
nothing else, it just feels like you're locked out of another chance to break up the pacing a bit by being like, and violence now, because or also having the vault do something, and that for a long stretch nothing happens because the Massacre ending doesn't happen. So you skip all the way from Benson's death to Orlando's death from Tyson being the next one that can even happen. And then so that's like almost 10 days without passwords, followed by the passwords disappearing forever. But I do vaguely remember people saying that like, I think at the very, very beginning, people might have said something along the lines of like, picking Sal is so lame because you get locked out of Route C or something. And I guess now we're here, so I guess I know what that means. Although I'm like, I'm a little terrified of the game calling it Route C because I'm like, what do you mean route? The other endings are not routes, so I'm like, why is this one called a route? I'm a little terrified of that. But it like, two main characters are dead, so hopefully it ends soon and it isn't some huge thing. Because like, how much could there be in the route where Dean and Roswell are already dead? But I don't know. I wish the characters would actually, at some point, resolve who did the murders. Maybe it happens eventually in the true ending or something. Like, somebody figured out how to tell Sal to kill people, and that should come up. But at least in the previous ones, like, we never figured these things out. While Haas fumbled with his phone and Tyson was busy yelling at him for something, I wandered off. I let my body go on autopilot to head towards the only person I knew existed in the house that might know something if they weren't already watching. If nothing else, it's a very realistic portrayal of police. Sal has the highest body count in the game, but when the actual crisis happened, he waited outside. The guy that wants to be a cop just wasn't there during the climax of the game. He just disappeared from all descriptions of the plot and then appeared outside with everybody else just watching Orlando be in a crisis on his own. I guess Roswell's dead. When I arrived... What's up?
Nothing. I'm reading news articles while I dissociate, and I just read the most insane entertainment news article that I've read in a long time, but it doesn't need to be part of this. That's how disengaged I am in the murder ending of the murder story.
Why? No, it's because you're bored of my ranting. He's done with me, everybody.
It's not because I'm bored of your ranting. It's because of this ending. I was so ready. I was sitting on the edge of my seat to see Sal go on a tear and kill everyone and make a really violent, interesting end that reveals things and simmering resentments among the cast, and, you know, like a Higurashi ending, the example of the murder novel in visual novel form. That's what I wanted to see. And instead, I'm just going to leave you all with the fact that people are pretty sure Hayden Christensen is going to voice Shadow the Hedgehog. There you go. That's for you.
Wow, he is Darth Vader. Finally.
That's where I am mentally at this point. I'm so disappointed in this
novel.
What
if Darth Vader wore special shoes for grinding?
I want Darth Vader to kill every single person. This is the story. This is the story where the ending of, spoilers, Rogue One, where Darth Vader appears and kills everyone, actually elicits a clap from me. I want him to show up to this manor and kill all the characters.
Kill all the characters that you don't like.
I want Darth Vader to kill Sal. That's just what I want. I'm losing my mind, audience. I've lost the plot completely.
We've been binging.
This is so hard to get through.
We've been hard binging Password for 3 to 4 hours a day for the last week because we're just.
I need therapy
it's time
after
to
this.
We're just kind of ready to be in a post-Password world, so we're just reading it. You know, honestly, for an amount of time that one might read a book normally, so it's not even like man, you're gonna burn yourself out by you're ruining the book by forcing yourself to read it in this weird volume. It's it's a similar amount of text you would just read it in a day if you're just reading a book for fun. But we're just not constrained by the Let's Play schedule because we're like, fuck it, we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're ready to live in a post-Password world. When I arrived, though, Benson was there, as if waiting for me. His face didn't budge, but I got the impression he knew what was happening, or rather, what had happened.
Please follow me.
He led the way forward to the passage towards the library, not breaking stride once. As for me, I followed quietly until the library came into view.
Sure.
Oh, thank you, Benson. That will be all. No. No? Which one of you? I was shaking, but I noticed Benson and Oswin looking at each other. You're distressed from what you just watched. Believe me, if I was the one behind this, we'd not be talking right now. Honestly, I just wished to come out myself and confirm their passing.
But sure.
Right. And another thing, Dave, it's best the rest of your friends hear this too. Without waiting for either of us, Oz started walking back the way we'd come. As I made to follow, Benson placed a hand on my shoulder.
Dave, are you all right?
No. The fuck is that question? I just watched Roswell's head split in two from an axe, like the dog from Watchmen. Like, the fuck do you mean? This is literally a trauma. What causes a password?
I am losing it.
I brushed his hand away, glowering. What did he expect me to say to that? 2 of my friends were dead. I was terrified. To top it all off, Oswin just up and left, more interested in corpses than those still alive.
Very well. Shall we? It hurts me.
By the time Benson and I had reached the foyer... Who the fuck is this? Benson? Would you mind?
Oh. I saw the red text again, and I thought it was Benson.
There's a lot of reddish characters. Benson, would you mind? He's being awfully loud. Dave.
He's got an orc tusk ring.
Yeah. Where'd you run off to? He wandered over and pulled me close by the arm, tight enough that his grip was digging into the point it hurt. I just went... I thought he could help. I can, somewhat. Not these 2, though, but for the rest of you, perhaps.
Sure, 2 are unaccounted for, but...
I tried to tug myself free of Tyson's grip. Not sure I wanted to look. Part of me was curious as to what Oz was doing, but I also didn't want to see the corpses of my friends. They'll show up eventually. This is a tragedy and must be dealt with properly. The other 2...
Sure, perhaps we should assist Master Noble, who is unconscious on the floor.
Fine, I'll tend to him. Can you arrange something for the other 2? Ty, let me go! I yanked my arm free and scowled at him, wandering over to where Oswin was kneeling on the ground. He's breathing, and may have a bump on his head, but otherwise he's physically fine. Mentally, we'll see. I might have to mix up something for him to take.
We have a problem.
Haas ran in through the door, locking eyes with Oswin before flicking over to Tyson and I.
Who are you?
He says while looking at us. He turned away from Oswin to us to ask who you are you. Whoops. Oswin Hammond. I live here. This is my house.
Sure. Okay. Anyway, there's a problem. No signal. So the signal gets cut off on day 11 this time?
Instead of 15 or 14 or 13 in the ambiguous window between Jack attack and road explode. Hey! that was fun to say. What do you mean, no signal? Our TV still has internet. It's a hard wire.
I tried calling the police. Nothing. Even tried going outside to see if it was just a dead spot. Nothing.
There's likely a landline we could try when Benson returns. Orlando groaned, sitting up and rubbing his head. Are we supposed to then conclude that each of these bad ends was orchestrated by either Jack or Dom, and that's why the signal just cut out just now, is because they just succeeded at one of their attacks, and now it's like, oh, here it comes. This is when it's starting then. And like, if you solve every bad end, then it's like, oh fuck, Jack just attacks you in the woods, and that becomes them being like, well, you blew it now, time to start the whole plan. But then they still wait around for 10 days. Like, I'm just trying to think of, like, is that supposed to be the explanation for why people just sit around not attacking for so long? Is that each bad end is supposed to be caused by them? But then that's only for the first half of the game, because after Jack attacks, the next bad end is definitely caused by Thanatos on purpose. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that.
Thanatos' goal is to find an ending that where Dave survives and everyone survives, but also he intentionally kills Tyson. I guess it's because he's training Dave by creating more bad endings. This gets really convoluted though. But also, I guess his stated motivations can't necessarily be true, or assumed to be true. Orlando groaned, sitting up and rubbing his head. Orlando! Ow! My head! Do you know where you are? What about your name? Me? My name's Orlando. I'm at a mansion with my friends. He's had some kind of head injury. He thinks these people are his friends. Good. As callous as Oswin was in the library, his voice was soft and calming as he supported Orlando while he came to. Well, you're at least not as disoriented as you could be. What happened? Wait, who are you? This is going to be a running problem, isn't it? That I have caused myself. Dave, take care of your friend. I'm going to find Benson. Wow. He's so calming and with good bedside manner when that the game said he was, but none of his actions were, and all of Benson's reactions were, wow, Oswin sure is socially oblivious with his bedside manner being so bad. So, sir, we need to deal with, what about the bodies, and Master, I already forgot his name, is on the floor. And like literally every second of that scene was about how, Oswin has terrible bedside manner in these situations. But then it just said he was good for one line.
I don't understand. I have so many thoughts about Oswin as a character, and like,
and now he's finally on camera.
On one hand, he's like this shadowy, if not specifically the mastermind, the character that kicks off the plot and gets everything moving, and like is the whole reason why the vault exists, and killed 100 children in order to do a medical trial. Probably, again, don't have any proof for this. Still 100% sure it's just to save Roswell. Just pretty sure that's what's going on, because especially because you puzzled out, and I think we were all clear on this immediately. Roswell's probably his kid, right? That's what we think. And that's why he can use the vault.
I definitely guessed earlier that he was Oswin's kid and that he was adopted out to one of his siblings.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on. Like, despite all of that, I think that it's really weird that even the game doesn't want him to be involved in things. Like, he just shows up finally, and we have a moment for people to be like, what the fuck, Dave? You said no one else was here, but you went to grab him. You're lying to me. Why did you lie about this extra person? And then it would, like, reward us for the fact that we didn't reveal him and give us actual character conflict. But even now, when he finally shows up and is like, I am the master of the house and I know what's going on and I can explain things, he's like, Dave, deal with your friends. I'm gonna go find Benson. Exit stage left. Like, what is... Why? Why? I don't understand why this game was written this way. Orlando, let's get you outside. In your underwear. Go outside in your underwear, Orlando.
Again. All right. The fact that he came down here in a fundoshi and the Japanese wave shirt just to concentrate all of it in one place.
He just needs to start talking about anime now and how he's afraid of ghosts.
Oh god,
that's actually the most Japanese aspect of Orlando, by the way. That's like a cultural thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
They really did just
racially hone in on those.
Once.
Yeah. Yep. It's very ethnically charged. That's for sure.
At least he didn't try to speak in machine translated English. I mean, machine translated Japanese.
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
We leave that to the shirts. But it's not. It's in character for Haas to wear a poorly translated shirt. Because he's an asshole. He's the anime fan what we hate. He's annoying. Which is annoying because, like, on some level, Haas could be my favorite character, but every time anime comes up, he's just deeply irritating. Haas led Orlando out towards the back door, and they disappeared into the backyard. When I turned away, my eyes were drawn to Roswell, and Dean still on the floor. There's something about seeing a corpse, something deeply unsettling that you can't quite place. Maybe it was the smell of blood, or how they were living and breathing only a short time ago. Everything felt surreal, like I was underwater, but I was able to walk towards my friends. I flinched, stopping in my tracks as my foot stepped in the blood pooling on the ground. The smell was stronger here, and as I looked down to the red puddle at my feet, it started to hit me harder. They were dead. Hey, come on. Let's get you outside. All I could do was stare. If I didn't know better, they were just sleeping. Ty pulled me in close, most importantly turning me away from Roswell and Dean. Before I knew it, he was guiding me towards the back door, in the direction that Haas and Orlando went. All four of us stood outside the back door, wondering what was to happen next. The air was cold but fresh. If anything, I felt bad for Tyson being only in his underwear, but all of us were in varying levels of undress. Are we gonna find Sal, like, face down in the pool or something? Okay. Gotta find that fucker and keep these two safe.
And a way to contact the police. Is the massacre ending going to be 7 days of waiting for Sal to show back up, and then he kills everyone off screen?
Oh,
just
God.
One by one, and he slasher villains them? Oh boy.
Ty's chest was heaving, and he was working himself up. I wasn't even sure if it was legitimate anger or fear, maybe worry spurring his actions. Maybe it's not fear, maybe it's worry. Ty, what do we do? You hang here and don't fucking wander off again. I'll be back. Wait, no. Please don't. He was already heading off towards the pool, looking around as if his head was on a swivel. They're gonna find him face down in the pool.
Oh, this is hostile. I might try and find a spot to get some signal. I could have sworn I had one every other day we've been here. You two stick together. Safety in numbers. Just wait for Dave to immediately split off.
What about you? What about Tyson?
I'm gonna go follow him so he doesn't, you know, stay safe that way, right?
Okay.
I won't be long, trust me.
And sure enough, with phone in hand, Haas followed after Ty. Orlando had sat down on the steps, heading down for the back porch, propping himself up with his hands as he massaged his knees. I didn't know what to say, but he had his jaw clenched as the tears ran down his face. Every time he tried to open his eyes, he just stared forward before shutting them tight again a moment later. As we sat there, I stared off into the distance as well, taking it all in. It was a mistake, as the weight of what I'd witnessed firsthand started to sink in. Maybe the shock of it all was finally wearing off. My breath began to quicken. The tightness in my chest doubled down and made my stomach churn. I felt like I was going to be sick, all the while hyperventilating. I put my head between my knees, groaning out and covering my head. Groaning out! It's shiny! It was only when I saw him jolt that I lifted my head back up, following his gaze across to someone approaching. He lumbered closer, mumbling something to himself. Even as he stopped before us, he continued mumbling, but for the most part, it just sounded like incoherent noise. What was it? Were we next? Once again, I found myself frozen as his eyes settled upon me, and then Orlando, all the while his mouth moved as if he was talking to us, but no sound escaped his mouth. His presence lasted for minutes, maybe hours. It was hard to say with how I was feeling. But sure enough, he continued forward, dragging himself up the steps and lazily heading back inside. When he was gone, Orlando and I stared at one another in shock. A moment later, and we were clinging to each other, terrified.
You two all right?
Tyson kicked the ground, frustrated. Neither Orlando and I answered Haas, huddled together. Whoops.
Shouldn't it be neither or?
Yeah. It was just all together wrong.
Still no signal. At this rate, I'll need to run down to the main road and try seeing if there's anyone on the road to try and ask for help. I'll need to run down to the main road and see if there's anyone on the road.
just don't. Just don't
even
repeat
see if
the
there's
same
better
word
reception
over and
out
over
the way.
Again. Why are you always like this? You're going to go down the driveway?
When we found Sal, yeah.
He was just here. He went inside. Fucker better not have touched you. No, but so what's the plan?
The plan? Outside of calling the police?
Yeah. We making a run for it before he gets us too? We blocking him off somewhere until the cops rock up? What? No one seemed to have an answer. There were a few shared looks, but overall none of us budged.
Wait, you said Sal went inside, right? What about Benson and that other guy?
Oh no. Fuck him. We got enough to worry about. Ty. Maybe Benson wandered off towards the woods, and then Jack or someone told him to go back in and kill Oswin. No sooner has I cried out, the back door opened. Nope, they're fine.
Were you perhaps worried about us, Master Haas?
We'd have been fine. He's back in his room now. Really? He just went back to bed?
It seems so. Perhaps his rampage is over for now, or at least that's the most we can hope for.
The number of threats that Benson has dropped on site. But the guy who killed 2 people, he's just like, let's let him cook. Let's just see where he goes. Let him wander around for a while. When I explicitly have a person to protect, that is the person whose job it is for me to defend with my life, and he's just roaming around on foot near the threat. I'll just let Sal wander around, because we've decided Sal gets to live in this route for a while. So Benson mysteriously doesn't drop him like Dom on site, when he's always armed, and Sal is literally killing people. The landline is dead too. Have you managed to get in contact with the authorities? We seem to all shake our heads, even though the question was posed to Haas. Unfortunate. Hey, you. What do you want? What the fuck was that? Who the fuck are you? Sorry, I'm just combining the 2 plot elements of, hey, there's a signal jammer, so we can't use our phones. But also, hey, Benson and Tyson can just cross the exploded bridge like no problem.
Is the road actually exploded yet?
No, it'll be 4 more days. I'm just saying I'm backfilling the problems in what was presented to us last route. Of just like, okay, we can't call because there's a signal jammer, which is a thing that has limited range because it has to be very powerful to have more range. And 2, we know that Tyson and Benson just crossed the gap in the ending. So one of them could have just went away and got help by just calling on their phone. They don't even have to make it anywhere. They just have to get out of the range of the jammer, which admittedly, I'm not even sure if it would cover the driveway, but whatever. What the fuck was that? Who the fuck are you? Were you not listening? I'll say it again. I'm not going to repeat myself beyond this. My name is Oswin Hammond, and this is my house. And Sal? What'd you do to him? I don't like what you're insinuating, boy. I did nothing, and I'd like to think you being witness to what he did to your friends would be enough to convince you of that. That doesn't make any sense. Sal acted completely out of character and lost his shit and killed multiple people and is in some kind of hypnotic trance. I'd like to think that you seeing him do that would prove that I didn't do it. What? That inherently implies something was done to him. But for the time being, the best we can do is seek out the police. But why? There's no other options to pick from? To remove you from my house, hopefully someplace safer. Oswin literally reaches the conclusion we should leave. In the game password. I'm gonna lose my mind. Unless you wish to stay. Although I don't see any reason why you would after this. Beyond that, no. There are no immediate options. We stood in silence, wondering if there was any other option shy of finding a place where we'd call the police. Safety in numbers meant that whatever we chose to do, we'd all need to be present. Which is how we found ourselves all heading down around the house towards the main road. Osmond looked as if he was lost in thought. Compared to Benson, who seemed to be expressionless and the rest of us worried or on edge, I was curious as to see why. Oswin? What? What are you thinking about? Nothing, really. Just curious. We kept walking, and a couple minutes later, Benson spoke up.
Sir, are you sure it's wise to be wandering the woods at night instead of remaining in the manor?
Even with Sal back there? It's fine. He's safe. I believe the worst of it is over anyway. Sal's safe? From what? He seemed to ignore me, instead talking directly to Benson. I secured the lab, but nothing's getting in or out of there. For that reason, I don't think I'm needed.
Very well.
It seemed as though I was getting ignored, so I instead looked to the others. This fucking sucks. Fucking wandering around in my underwear.
Yeah.
You're not in your underwear. Haas, you're in slacks?
Sorry, that was funny. Yes.
They appear to be slacks. That's got the button and everything. Like,
he's dressed for a job interview.
Yeah, he's just topless. Ty shivered, the cold starting to get to him. If I had a shirt or something, I'd have offered it, but I was just as naked as he was. Hopefully, we can get somewhere warm soon. They didn't have any clothes? I guess they don't want to go in the hallway Sal was in. That makes sense. He gave me a look and threw an arm over my shoulder. Soon, bub.
Can we talk about something really quick?
No. That's never happened. I looked from Haas to Oswin and Benson, who seemed to be trudging along, minding their own business. Talk about what?
We're all in varying levels of not okay, but does anyone actually know what happened?
Sal went fucking nuts. Murdered Roswell and Dean. You were there. Also, Dave spent like the last entire day uncovering all the details of Sal's mind control sleepwalking, and then we did nothing about it. And then something bad happened. We needed a vault vision to realize that Sal's sleepwalking might do something after a whole day of setting up its mechanics.
I mean, why, asshole? Have some tact.
As if to punctuate his point, Orlando sniffled and wiped his face. If Haas wasn't guiding him forward by the hand, chances are we'd still be at the mansion. Who the fuck cares?
I do, Sal. Like...
Haas was worked up, and it was interfering with his ability to put his thoughts into words. Thanks for explaining that. Why would he kill two of our friends? And why those two friends? Is that what you were wondering? I
mean, it's odd, right?
The things that are being said out loud or described are just like, no, yeah, we get it, guys, we get it. Yeah, we understand what Haas is like. We don't need to explain why when Haas asks why. Like, we know what that means. Also, when Haas struggles to form a sentence and trails off, we know what that means, and you know that we know what that means because you do that all the time. So why did you explain the concept of that? It's just odd. There was a pit in my stomach that was making itself known again, and I doubled over. Was it appropriate to throw up? To scream? Haas's question hung in the air for a bit before Orlando answered. It was to protect us, right? It's gotta be.
What?
Sal was kind. He is kind and nice and sweet too. He had to have a reason, right?
Not really.
There are many reasons why one might kill Master Noble. As you say...
this is Benson.
Oh. Red text got me again.
As you say, it could be as a means to protect, but without questioning him further, there isn't really much to go off of.
He could have made less of a mess in the foyer if he was being courteous. Wow, Oswin sure is nice to people and cares about suffering and blah blah blah. Why did they even try to describe him as tactful for a moment? Like, he clearly isn't. Like, he's clearly not characterized to be that way, so it's strange that they wrote him that way for a moment, but they didn't write him that way. They just described him that way when everything was saying the opposite. Granted, he looked out of it, even on the security monitor. Orlando stomped over to Oswin, grabbing by the collar of his coat, snarling. How dare you speak about Sal like that? You care more about your foyer over the two people that died there?
What? Orlando, this is not a reasonable response to this. Shut the fuck up. What?
It's the usual thing where it's like, he's responding the way he should in the scene, in that he was just acting dismissive about his friends bleeding on his floor. But Orlando then, once again, when these when these confrontations often happen in response to thing, then the person who's confronting people speaks, and the way they say it is just, oh, that's
Yes.
like it's like the scene is like getting to the AI concept. We talked about like language, predictive language algorithm stuff. It's like these scenes often feel like they're being guided purely by pattern recognition. Like this is how the confrontation would happen, and this is the little thing that would happen, to the point where basically Tyson and Oz both caused the same conflict twice in a row just now, because like this is just how the scene plays out in things I've seen. But then the mechanics moment to moment don't line up, and you're like, wait, Orlando said that? It's like my friend. It's not like my friends fucking died. How dare you complain? Like, oh, I'm so sorry they bled on your floor, Your Majesty. And instead it's like, how dare you talk about Sal, the murderer, that way? I'm like, I know last line was like, he must have had a reason, but like, he did do a murder on everyone. So it's just
He did.
What a weird...
He did, in fact, do a kill on all of our friends.
Yeah, it's just a weird hill to die on when there's just a much more obvious avenue of the reason why Oz's line is actually him being an asshole. And it's hard to parse whether Orlando's supposed to sound kind of unreasonable, or if he's supposed to be righteously angry at Oz, but he and maybe the author, as a result, are then misunderstanding why what Oz has said was bad, which my brain hurts all the time. Oswin seemed bored, quirking an eyebrow at Orlando while he clung to his front.
Master Noble, show some restraint. What?
No. For all I know, he's happy they're dead. For all I know, he's the one that's behind it all. In a flash, Benson moved forward, throwing his fist right into Orlando's gut.
Okay, this is actually something that I don't think makes sense. Orlando, why do we even have an assumption right now that you are behind anything? Like, there's nothing that has happened so far that has made me immediately go like, oh, there is a murderous mastermind here that is trying to kill all of us.
Yeah, like, the closest we have is that is Sal acting out a character, but most of the characters in the scene don't understand what we know about Sal here, that he's being guided by someone to kill. The most they have to go on is that basically just that Oswin just showed up. And so I can kind of grasp at the idea of like, okay, blame the person that just showed up because it's weird that there's a shadowy surprise person that wasn't here before.
Yes.
But
no, there's nothing wrong with that line of logic.
Placed half the time.
Yeah. Well, the thing about this that is confusing to me is more specifically the jump that like there's a mastermind behind this random act of murder our friend committed. Like, where you, me, Andrew, Mandy, all of us are on a vacation. Mandy finally snaps and just guns Andrew down. I'm not sitting there going like, who's the Akane? Who did this? Like, it's just like, oh, Mandy got sick of Andrew losing an Overwatch and finally put him out of his misery. Like, there's no, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no jump to this logic. I don't understand it. I don't understand why you would go there.
Lost my place a little bit. Hang on a minute. Now you read all that. So now Benson's beating up Orlando as if he was going to actually be a threat to Oz or something, and this is a reasonable response. So these people just suck. Orlando fell to his knees, gasping for air.
I'll say it plainly. It was a tragedy, but I will not allow you to throw accusations towards Master Oswin freely, especially from one such as yourself.
From one such as yourself?
The son of Memphis, probably.
But we know he's not good with Memphis, though. So, Haas pulled Orlando off to the side, glaring daggers at Benson. Not that he seemed to pay much attention to him now that Orlando was removed.
Are we done? Nope, this is Oswin.
Are we done?
I believe so, sir.
He sucks. You insulted dying. You made light of you dismissed 2 dead people. Their living friend was like crying on your front, and then he gets beaten up by your butler. He's like, "So are we done?" Oh. Well, I tried to get my nausea under control. Let me play things. I just let things play out. Let people say what they needed to, and hopefully getting to vent would help. Let people say what they needed to, and hopefully getting to vent would help. Hoping them getting to vent would help? That's definitely not... That doesn't work. The next moment, the world was rumbling, followed by the sound of an explosion somewhere in the distance.
Yep.
Whoa! Wow, hyper-condensed. So the signal goes out and the road blows up on day 11, like way earlier. So it definitely wasn't scheduled. But they talked about it being Jack's doing, and it almost sounded like Jack was being impulsive in Route B, but now it's like a really coordinated plan thing where it all happens within the same hour. Weird. Why was it spread out to why was it 2 days later in the other route? The fuck was that? I don't know. Is everything okay? Haas sped a little ways further down the driveway, looking around. He didn't say anything, but he looked worried. Eventually, he moved further on and out of sight. He was out of sight before I could... God damn it. Please, just proofread a little bit. Eventually, he moved further on out of sight. He was out of sight before I could ask if he was going to check. Oh god, oh no, it's worse. It's worse. Because the final sentence has speed to it. It implies that it happened very quickly. But the first line that describes him moving out of sight says eventually. You can't say eventually and before I could ask. Like oh no, he did something too quickly for me to react, and then that was after you said he got around to it eventually. He wandered out of sight, sighing out. Benson.
Sir, do not start. I know just as much as you do.
Then find out, damn it. Benson sped off down the driveway after Haas, moving quicker than I expected him to. And so we waited, Tyson huddling close to me on one side with Orlando on the other. Oswin was still standing where he was originally, arms folded and tapping his foot. He seemed anxious, despite his frown, and who would blame him after what we heard? Time continued to pass, and as it did, my worry grew. I didn't know how long this driveway was, but eventually... You're back! Despite the relief of seeing Haas again, he looked even more troubled on his return. What happened?
The main road. Part of it.
It's gone.
What do you mean, gone?
Landslide, perhaps. Although I imagine it was the explosion that set it off. Part of the road is missing and a large part of it is covered in debris.
That was Benson.
Oh, oops, that was Benson, not Haas. Imagine I said that all in the Benson voice.
Yeah. Wait, but that means... We're trapped here? No, not really. Just keep going. just go. Just keep going. We know you can. Just go. You can kill boss fights, and two of these people have done it before. Just go. Just keep going. Just continue plan A. This rock explosion does not actually stop you from leaving. Sounds like it. But fuck that. Come morning, I'll just keep going until we find help. But what until then? Tyson's plan is just to actually leave and go and find help? What happened to him? It's the whole reason he didn't before is because it's impossible for him to leave Dave behind. Now he's going to A, wait until morning, and then B, leave and get help. The thing he'll never do in other timelines. From self-motivated reasons, not from something stopping him. Do we return to the mansion? It's cold out here, and I wouldn't mind some pants, but there's Sal. I'm not scared. Fuck, I'll go get you pants if that's all you're after.
Where does that leave us?
With pants! Spending the night outdoors is unwise. For that reason, I suggest we all take refuge inside the manor, both for the warmth, comfort, plus the dangers of unclaimed wilderness playing host for any number of things. Both for these 3 things. And the,
You are concerned about your friends. I shall tend to them, respectfully of course, at least until we can get in contact with the proper people so they can be buried properly.
Why was Tyson saying come morning? It is morning. I guess maybe it's the middle of the night? Maybe it's the middle of the night? This game doesn't have time of day indicators anywhere, and all of its backgrounds stay the same no matter what. So I just assume that when you wake up and the sun is up that it's the morning, but maybe this is the middle of the night and he meant come morning as in like come this morning of the massacre, and that's why everyone's cold. That makes sense, I guess. I didn't know what time of day it was. For a second there, that Tyson meant my friends all got murdered, or my friend-like substances all got murdered day 11 morning. Oh no, the road blew up. I will now wait until day 12 morning. I thought that's what he was saying. Like, what? I dropped my head, thinking it over. We trekked back the way we came. It was still late, and having nothing to show for it, the walk was spent in silence. As the house came into view, our pace slowed, knowing what still awaited us on the other side of the door. Benson wandered inside, poised and proper as he always was. We knew what he went in to do, and after a long while of waiting, he emerged, somewhat bloody, but ensuring us that the deed had been done. I melted them in a bathtub, Dave. Without hesitation, Oswin wandered inside ahead of us, leaving us out in the cold. The moment I walked in, the smell of blood hit me. My eyes trailed to the floor, seeing the drag marks heading off to the adjoining room. I can't... Everyone else was moving around me, seemingly in a trance as they headed down towards the stairs. The smell of blood here was suffocating. My vision was going red, and it felt as if I was drowning in the smell, so much so that I could taste it. Orlando reached out and took my hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. Come on. I want to see them. I felt his arms around me in a gentle hug before he broke away a second later. Tomorrow? Please? I'll come with you. It's time to prepare myself. By the time we made it upstairs, Haas corralled us into a single bedroom, just so we were all in the same room.
It might be safer to stick together tonight, for what's left of it at least.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it is nighttime. We never reached day 11 morning. It's so disorienting without indicators and so on. Because every piece of information I'm absorbing visually tells me it's definitely daytime. Tyson handed me a shirt and I threw it on. I didn't even know who it belonged to, but it was better than nothing. Orlando and I watched as Haas and Ty pushed stuff to block the door. I can only imagine why. All that was left was to settle in for whatever rest we could get. Ty settled in, pulling at his fur. He looked a mess, and no wonder. I sat down beside him, not sure what to say and half expecting him to cuddle into me. I just waited. But nothing. Ty, My voice was barely above a whisper, but he shot me a pained look, gesturing for me to stop. It seemed he was mourning in his own way, Or maybe he was finally breaking now that the immediate danger was over. Maybe part of it was the job to do tomorrow. All I could do was nod, trying to find a spot to get comfortable in. As I closed my eyes, I felt him shift behind me, resting his back against mine. It wasn't cuddling, but I got the impression that this felt safer for him. Eventually I passed out, the stress and fatigue catching up to me again, if only for a couple of hours. I was able to get something in the way of sleep. Weird.
What?
It went from day 11 path C to day 11 path C. There's no... It was a title card that just reestablishes the time it already was. That's just never happened before. So I was like, huh.
You're right. I didn't even notice that.
Because I was beginning the sentence of in disbelief, being like, what? Day 12? But we only existed for like an hour that day, and it was before sunrise. So then it didn't change. I'm like, huh? It felt like I was floating. My mind still replaying the events over in my mind. Please, proofread. My mind still replaying the events over in my mind while I slept. Wow. I can't believe your mind's thoughts are in your mind, where your mind keeps its thoughts. When I woke up, I was sitting on the sofa in the living room. Dean and Roswell were standing nearby, looking at me expectantly. Upon seeing them, I felt my stomach lurch. Guys. It seemed like Dean wanted to say something. But when he didn't, Roswell tried. Neither of them were saying anything, instead just looking at me, waiting. I thought you both... When I blinked, I was alone again. My body felt heavy, as if chained down, but my feet took me to the kitchen. Be it because of instinct, or that it was just the next closest room, I don't know. Just cut out the second half of every description. Just cut out the second sentence every time. What if I just listed every hypothetical possibility like a theorist interpreting the game? Like, I don't know, maybe you could almost think of it as that. Like, it's like it'd actually be interesting if it was actually written with an authorial tone of like an investigator trying to interpret the thoughts or the behaviors. But it doesn't work because it's definitely Dave's inner monologue. And if they are doing something with blue text like Akane, where it means it's coming from a different time or something because he's like entered the live stream or some shit, it still just does not work, because it definitely doesn't stand up to scrutiny that it's doing something different. It just is his thoughts overall, but written strangely all the time.
There's a thing I think about a lot. This is like an issue that my writing has as well, where I am often very interested in the creating uncertainty in prose. I think that there's a lot of really cool things you can do with that, and you'll see that in some of the stories that I've written, where I will often write a description and then very deliberately change a character's mind about the description that I have given immediately following it. So I'll say like, the wind was still, or perhaps dead. But the thing is that like, where it's like there's a misalignment in there, because stillness is a very different thing than something not existing or being dead or being completely dormant. But the thing is that the second statement sort of paradoxically adds a type of uncertain clarity or an ambiguous clarity to the previous sentence. And the way that works is it defines the two extremes of what something could be, no matter how close those extremes are, and then points the reader in a direction for them to kind of fill in the gaps and figure out or interrogate what that confusion is. But one of the things that Password does very frequently is it will just describe something and then describe it incorrectly or add a type of uncertainty that is then undefined.
It amounts to there just being no meaning when you add the extra caveat. Like here, it's like you could definitely write this as being like, my body felt heavy as if chained down, but my feet took me to the kitchen as if on instinct.
Yes.
But then it's like,
yes.
I don't know, but maybe it was like the next room, and that's the only reason why. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
And it's just
so
like,
it's
why'd you add that? You removed all potential interpretation and meaning, and just were like, I don't know, it's probably meaningless, or it could be literally every interpretation at once, and it almost starts to feel like the author surfacing their own thing of like, I decided this happens. What motivated that decision? I'll write every option and also the ambiguous possibility of it could be anyone or anything, and then move on. Like it's almost like it's its own footnotes at its own writing at the description.
Well, one of the things about this that's weird is just that, be it because of instinct or that it was just the next closest room, I don't know. The thing is that you just going into the next room because it's the next room is still an instinct. So it doesn't actually change the definition. It's just Dave not understanding why he's doing things, which again is inherently instinctual. So you can just say, I instinctually.
He's writing it as if he went there because it's just the next room, as a contrast to instinct. But that implies that he went to the next room just because he needed to be in a different room. Which would be an action on instinct, because he's explicitly not controlling his behavior, and he just is following an urge, which is the same thing he said the first time.
Exactly. So like this constant need to add, contrasting descriptions. I understand the urge to do this because you can imply a lot more nuance there that people can like find more meaning in. But in almost every single case that I see this in this story, it's not actually adding any more meaning or even opening up the space for interpretation. It's just saying the same thing twice with different words, and it pads out the word count, which again is a major issue with this story. It's always just padding out the word count, you know?
Like here's another it's always like, here's a second sentence even longer than the first one that usually just does not actually elaborate on the first line, which was the only point. And you're like, okay, why did it... and then you're like, this is how you get a thing that's like, what, twice as long as Echo or something like that? Like just an upsetting thing where like I was already measuring Echo in upsetting terms of being like, it's like the Odyssey twice or something. And you're like, what the fuck do you mean it's that long? And it's like, oh, well, Echo actually had a lot of writing to do, as it turned out. Like it was doing stuff with all that time, and it's just what happens when you make yourself write 5 books as one book, essentially. But this one is struggling to get through one book in the same amount of time, and some of it's because they just, as much as 50% of the text on the screen is just, I can't call it superfluous because that implies that it's just pointless and redundant, but that's too kind, because it's actually contradictory and confusing and making the writing worse on top of just being more words. I'm a botanist, you see. A botanist, you see. Dad? He wasn't there. I knew he wouldn't, as he, like Dean and Roswell now, wasn't around anymore. That didn't make the pain in my chest go away. It didn't shake the sick feeling welling up in my stomach. In a flash, it was all gone. The sound of loud banging is what roused me from my sleep, and I looked to the others in the room, also waking up. It lasted for all of a second before that confused stupor wore off, and we looked at the door with dread. The banging turning into the door rattling, trying to open. What came next was the distressed voice of the person trying to enter, almost sounding frantic. Minor comment, but this game made me a little mad, again, in that a thing we could definitely feel in Route B is that it was padding for time, because it for some reason felt the need to have certain events happen on certain days, and if it didn't have any of this to bridge that gap, it would just spin its wheels in the mud for an astonishing long time while covering nothing and not going anywhere, because it's like fitting a schedule. And we were under the impression that that's from some kind of need to match Route A's schedule or something. But Route C will just make things go faster, which is good, in the context of Route C, but it makes Route B even worse because Route C just accelerated the entire timetable of several things that had a set day, and it's just doing that. And you're like, well, what the fuck was B's excuse? Why isn't B 5 days shorter if it had so little to say? Anyway, what came next was the distressed voice of the person trying to enter, sounding almost frantic. Basically, I'm just mad at day 22 still, like specifically.
Everyone, where are you?
I looked at Ty and he quickly shook his head. Haas was eyeing the door wary, and Orlando had his hands covering his mouth, also watching the door. I want to remind everybody real quick, because I'm just so fucking pedantic, I guess. This house is so soundproofed that they were not woken up by gunshots. But down the hall, Sal's knocking on his door. Okay. That woke everybody up. My mind then went to Oswin and Benson, wondering if they were aware of what was going on. Chances are they hadn't made themselves known, given how Sal was reacting. Soon enough, he left, his voice fading away quickly. Oh, he's knocking on our door. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. I thought they barricaded him in his room? I guess they failed. Shit. He's awake. The inevitable outcome happened that we have not planned for at all.
Shows that the soundproofing exists, though. Remember the soundproofing? Remember that plot element?
Yeah.
Could hear him right outside the door, but chances are he's been searching for a while.
Yeah, I fucked up. I thought he was knocking on his door because he's barricaded, but I guess he's out. What makes you say that? The tone of his voice? He did sound panicked, maybe scared, I don't know. What? Do those words mean different things to you to a point that's worth elaborating on, Dave? Who has the voice? I was going to say who has the voice of the author, but he is the narrator. But why is he like that? Or he's trying to do us in.
Well, we can't stay here forever. We're gonna have to leave eventually.
I know that. Fuck, just... Alright, when we're all ready, let's head on out. So you guys made zero plans on how to defend yourself against Sal, or how to contact Oz, or in any way do something if Sal gets out when he wakes up, which you know was coming? As far as I hear, they didn't do anything further to deal with that. All of us mentally prepared ourselves before Tyson and Orlando moved the barricade from the door. There was a moment of hesitation from Orlando where we reached out to open the door, but when he did, we kept close together. As we reached the stairs and looked down, Sal was huddled on the floor. He was cowering, talking quietly to himself, quiet enough I couldn't make out what he was saying. The trail of blood from where Dean and Roswell had been dragged off into the adjoining room was unmissable. A stain of red where the tiled floor we were heading towards. Benson's not a very good butler. Anyway.
Nope.
Sal must have heard us descend the stairs, standing and turning suddenly to face us.
Sal, there's been... Sal, oops. Sorry, I read the first word instead of the second word. Everyone, there's been...
Ty stuck an arm out to avoid me advancing, shepherding me behind him almost. Almost? Why? Okay.
Dean and Roswell, they...
He took a step forward, and the three of us took a step back, while Ty remained firm.
Why did you...
I could hear Ty start to snarl. You fucker, you did this! From behind Tyson, I could see Sal's arms go limp in shock.
What? No, Dean and Roswell. I tried to, and...
He took a step forward and Tyson took another forward as well, his voice raising. You tried to what?
I found them this morning, but it was too late. CPR wouldn't be enough, so...
Odd thing to specify. I'll write it down as shock, but like, fucking partially decapitated Dean shows up and he's like, CPR's not gonna girl boss out of this one. He scrambled for his phone in his pocket, pointing to it.
I tried calling for help, calling any of you, but no signal. Honestly, seeing you all alive is a relief.
It's then I realized he didn't know. He didn't remember what had happened and what role he played. The words caught in my throat, and it was Tyson who picked up the slack. Yeah? You're relieved we're alive, huh? You planning on doing us in, too?
What?
Hey, something about this doesn't feel right, Tyson. Maybe back off a little.
Fuck that. I'm not letting him kill anyone else. Sal took a step back upon hearing what Ty had said. In fact, his words echoed in the foyer with none of us saying anything.
What did you say? I didn't. I couldn't.
He took another step back, his head slowly turning to the stain on the floor he was inches away from.
Sal, do you not remember what happened last night?
Looking at Haas, he shook his head slowly. He almost seemed stunned by the question.
Damn, this is gonna be,
What do you think killed those two, huh?
Tyson.
Haas grabbed Tyson quickly, but just as quickly pulled away when Tyson went to punch him. When he was riled up like this, suddenly grabbing him wasn't a good move.
Please, what happened?
Last night,
Dave, wait.
With his attention on me, Tyson took the chance to move away from Haas and approach Sal. His tone was spiteful, and he punctuated his sentence by snarling even more. You wanna know what happened last night, you piece of shit? You stand there all scared and confused, but I don't fucking buy it. You took an axe to that oinker. How are you supposed to say that line with a straight face? Fucked up Dean with the same axe and went for a casual walk after. Sal took a step back further, his front landing in the smear on the floor. He was followed, Tyson increasing his snarl. So those two bodies in there? Yeah, that's all your fucking handiwork.
No. It can't. I couldn't have.
With a few more steps back, Sal turned tail and ran, out the front door and out of sight. Sal, wait!
Orlando, buddy, you can't be serious.
But...
Remember, he killed two of our friends. He's unstable. It's dangerous. I'm sorry, but...
Haas gestured in the air, unable to finish his thought with words. What do we do now? We have to be able to do something, right? Go put on clothes before you get cold. Then, you can go from there.
So we're splitting up?
Fuck no. We go together. It's only pants and shirts, right? Today we went upstairs. It was odd. Three of us outside, while the last of one went in to retrieve a piece of clothing. I kept peering over the railing, watching the front door as if expecting Sal to come back. I didn't even get to go in my own room, as clothes were brought out to me while I was in a daze watching the foyer. Once we were all dressed, we headed down for breakfast. We filed in, keeping watch just in case we were going to get jumped the moment we entered the room. Once we were in the kitchen, we stopped to look at one another. I don't think I'm that hungry. But we can't just not eat, right?
Normally I'd agree, but if we don't try and keep something down...
Normally you'd agree, but Orlando said the opposite. Whatever. Ty wandered over the coffee machine and flicked it on before grabbing some bread from the pantry. Here. He held a slice of bread for me, and I gingerly took it, staring at it while I held onto it with both hands. You gotta eat something. I'll get coffee going. But why? We're family. Someone's gotta look out for you, and I'll be damned if it's not gonna be me.
Isn't that going a bit far?
I don't even know what they're talking about right now. What? Just... What? What are they litigating? Whatever. No, I suppose it makes sense. Honestly, just having someone that's keeping it together is helping. And if someone's at least looking out for someone else among us, that's something to relax about a bit, right? What are they litigating? I zoned out as they continued to talk. Me too. The bread in my hands was soft, and while it was only a single slice, my body was torn between eating it for sustenance versus throwing up from the pit of my stomach. Honestly, just take the entire fucking... It's not heavy. Just take the entire loaf of bread with you in its dumb little bag. Sling it over your shoulder. We've got bread for the road, boys! Trembling, I devoured it, figuring that forcing it down fast was better than thinking about it too much. Still, I felt slightly worse once it was gone. Looking to Ty, he gave me a nod and wandered over to the coffee machine.
Well, I think this is as good a time as any to talk about a plan, right?
Maybe. What is there to even do?
First thing is securing a way out, right?
Landslide is going to get in the way of that. Not really. I know you can get across it. So checking out that is one thing we need to do today, huh? What about Sal? Shouldn't we ask him about what happened? You can, for all I care. Dave, you ain't going near him. But why not? It's, because he killed to you. With an axe, Dave. You're not going near him. He can do what he wants. But I kind of get why you'd say that. It's dangerous, right? Why is he asking like he doesn't know? They litigate things so weirdly. Like they're... It feels like aliens interpreting language.
We don't have enough to go off. Who knows what could happen if we went and talked to him? No telling where he even went, right?
I guess that's true. He went out the front door and I haven't seen him since. He's planning on coming back. The chances are he'll get hungry at some point. We can lock him in the freezer or something till the cops arrive if we have to. And then he dies. This kills the Sal. We've proven this. The freezer? Yeah. I think that might do a bit more than just detaining him. We'd be better off, I don't know, isolating him somewhere else? I don't care. As long as he's out of the way is fine by me. Okay. Landslide. Sal, but what about... I gestured behind me, hoping the others would clue in.
I'd been thinking about that too. Chances are we can't just leave them there without it getting, you know.
Where were they left? Do we know? They were killed in the foyer, and then Benson dragged them somewhere, and there's a streak of blood going somewhere. But I guess it's not the freezer this time? It was the freezer in the other timeline. Well, what do you expect us to do about it? Bury them in the backyard? No, we need to bring them with us. That's,
Hopefully we can get in contact with an ambulance or something to come retrieve them, but yeah, we can't just leave them there.
Would asking Benson or Oswin what to do help here? What, you think one of them might just magically know what to do with the body? Yeah, you put him in the freezer like in the other timeline. Well, I sure don't. Well... We all looked to Orlando, who seemed to be considering something. If there's no other options, we might be able to keep them in the freezer, right? Are you fucking serious?
I guess it makes sense, but is that safe? Is that, I don't know, proper?
All things considered, I think that's the best option we have, right? What, you planning on bagging them up and keeping them there to stay fresh? Kinda, yeah. If it works for me, and if I'm honest, it's not the first time this has come up. Is this the introduction to Orlando being a mafia son? The fuck do you mean this isn't the first time? You see, a lot in my family's line of work. You see a lot in my line's family. You see a lot in my family's line of work, Tyson. You learn to, or you witness, us help. So everyone knows. Everyone already knows, except Tyson. Or Haas already knows.
Yeah. I could make a guess if that's what you're looking for.
Orlando breathed in deep, running his hand through his mane. It's better I do it, I think. Just make sure no one's assuming anything wrongly. My family, the Noble family, are an organized crime syndicate with me being the heir. So, when it comes to dealing with bodies, well, not me or my parents or grandparents, someone had to deal with them, and you learn. This is insightful about Route B. Two things are happening at the same time here. One, Orlando's just explaining really early on about being in a crime family in really detailed terms, unlike other routes where everyone just kind of seemed to start talking about it at some point like it was established. But also, we're discussing the thought process that leads up to realizing and discussing the idea of putting a body in the freezer. Which is another thing that in Route B, people just start doing based on some kind of assumption with no setup beforehand. Which, like, it's not an unreasonable conclusion, but finding out that there was an explanation for people deciding to put people in the freezer ends up making it look like they once again were like, well, we've already established this in the password verse, so they'll just start doing this out of nowhere in this timeline when it felt the need to be explained and even character motivated in the other route. So it just, both elements look really like, it's akin to like how there's a scene dedicated to Roswell's reveal in Route B, but then in Route G or F or whatever, it's like, so anyway, Dave, I found you in this hedge maze. By the way, I'm dying. Like, you have to quickly do the Cliff Notes version of the real reveal. It's like, once again, like, this game needs to have... It's another point towards the idea that the game, like, visual novels often should just have the correct way to play them, and instead of choices, because of the fact that, like, a game like, Zero Time Dilemma can gate certain scenes behind other scenes, so it knows that you at least saw this before that, and it can establish things like this before the other scenes, where they're just like, oh, just assuming you know this already. Because otherwise it's really weird. Because it's very confusing to get the runoff version of the plot, like this weird Cliff Notes, like, abbreviated thing that's kind of referencing this information without ever reaching the scene that actually establishes it the first time in the first place. And then it just feels weird when then, like, oh, we're establishing this now in scenes, when you're like, but haven't we known this for a while, but in a way that wasn't established very clearly, but it's been like 100 hours now. What do you mean we're talking about it now? And that's just the mess you get yourself in that way. I gulped, staring at Orlando. All this time he'd been involved in crime, whereas I had just assumed his parents were bankers and that he was fairly wealthy. But this explains some things. So Dave didn't know, but Haas did know. Okay. Haas, the new guy, and Dave, his oldest friend. Those are switched. Dave's known him longer than seemingly any character, and is his best friend. explicitly, we did eventually get to the point where they're like, that Dave is Orlando's best friend, was specifically said. And he's never known that his family was a crime family. Dave's just very stupid.
Extremely.
That's not new information, but it's the most successfully reinforced information in the game. So, when I wasn't allowed to come over anymore, or when I forgot your birthday, I paled, overcome with a sense of dread. No, 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 no. Triple, quadruple wrong. No. Dave, no. This is not new information, because I just remembered Tyson's flashback where he talks about fucking Orlando's mob boss dad and talking to the principal. So you did know, Dave. The writer doesn't know what people know.
No, because again, I think that flashback, the Dave conversation, the Dave text there was.
But I'm saying, like, the writer does not know what the characters know about each other. When we talk about all these things, I'm like, who knows what? Like, who knows Dave's dad is dead? What is the relationship between these characters? The majority of the time, I think the answer is he just doesn't know. He didn't actually write down this information before starting so that he could then reference it and have it be consistent from route to route and character to character and so on. Like, they just don't have relationships before the game starts. Like, they just don't. Because there is nothing, it's literally, he just makes it up on the spot, and then makes it up again on the spot, and then they contradict each other in really overt ways. Like,
yes.
Because he in his flashback about Tyson, he specifically references that definitely Orlando's dad is like a mob boss. It's a crime family, and they bribed or corrupted the officials or whatever to get Tyson fired because they're sick of someone being bullied. It was written incredibly confusing and contradictorily, but the one thing we definitely know is that Dave knows that they have crime family connections in that situation, and that's why he thought he had magic information that could solve the problem. We've already litigated why that whole paragraph was like a miswritten nightmare where you genuinely can't parse what the fuck they mean, but that part was definitely true. And now here he is, literally years later, having revelations in response to Orlando that his dad's a crime boss. Like, this is the kind of detail you need to know about your characters. It's just basic stuff of like what is and isn't a revelation, because you can't write a flashback. And like, two things, like, one, the flashback takes place sooner in the game, so it should have been written sooner than this, presumably. So it's like chronologically it's out of order, but also in real chronology, it's way sooner, because he was years younger. It's when he basically not met Tyson, but befriended Tyson in the first place. I'm frustrated. That's not even that's not even like it's not a typo. It's not a weird description that's like bad at describing the action. It's just like, on a fundamental level, this is a core reveal about the villain of the entire game and his relationship to his son that is so poorly written. But it's not just that it's happening off camera in some other route somewhere, it's that you didn't write it. You didn't plan it out and didn't know what the answers were and forgot at some points what the answers were and wrote contrary information.
Correct.
I paled, overcome with a sense of dread. Oh, Dave, no, it's not like that. Sure, Dad found out that your dad was a cop and that's why you weren't allowed over, but I wouldn't say you specifically are in any danger. You better not be. He isn't. I will set my dad on fire before I let him touch Dave, which will not do anything to him.
Because he is canonically, this is...
I felt a strange mix. Why would he say that when he's fireproof, too? Like, what the... I don't understand why you would write that unless you didn't know he was fireproof yet either. Like, at this point, did you establish that you just knew Orlando breathes fire, but you didn't know that he and his father are both fireproof? Because why would he say that? That's just a completely nonsensical threat from the guy who is the one person who should definitely know his father's fireproof. It's like, oh, if my dad kills you all, we're gonna have words. I felt a strange mix of flattered and terrified and took a step back. Ty sighed out, rubbing his face. Fine, so there's that. We have a plan for those two. But I ain't moving them if I don't have to. I'm checking out the landslide first to see if there's a way out. Because we can cross the landslide in this route where we have a desire to leave. And I'm gonna go do that despite the fact that I'll never leave Dave behind and we can't cross the landslide. So Dave, get your ass ready and we'll head on over. Wait, what? I'm not letting you out of my sight. If I'm going, you're coming too. What if I don't want to go? Dave, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I get it. They're trying to process the idea that Tyson has boundary issues and infringes on Dave's agency. But there has to be a fucking adult in the room and people have to do something. And so it just makes Dave sound like an irritating little whiny little shit that just wants to sit here and do nothing. And I want my ice cream. And like, people are dead, Dave. We gotta go. We're gonna go for a walk. Eat some bread, go for a walk. It's fine. I'll do everything. Just fucking stop being a contrarian for no reason when our lives are at stake. We're not arguing about this. You're coming, even if I have to drag you myself. And I only know that they're trying to go for a Tyson agency thing because they keep doing it. Everyone's like, whoa, what's wrong with you, Tyson? And that's all supposed to indicate that he's wrong narratively.
Yep.
Okay, it's fine. Let's all go down together. That'd be fine, right? I suppose sticking together would be the safest option, almost like I've said that 7 times today already. Right. I don't know why I said that.
Right.
What about Benson and Oswin? Fuck them. Don't care what happens to them. They've gone and fucked off somewhere and left us to fend for ourselves. I guess that's fair.
Should we try to contact them? Tell them where we're going?
What part of fuck them do you not get? But shouldn't we? No. I'm sure they'll be fine, right? They'll, be around later, hopefully? Right.
I guess there's no avoiding it, huh?
Ty didn't give me much time to get ready, instead leading us along towards the main road. The main way forward was familiar from having trekked it during the night, but something about it being the middle of the day made it feel safer. Wow, thanks. Come on, keep walking. He'd occasionally grab me by the hand and give me a tug to hurry me along. He was stressed, maybe worried. Yeah. And a scowl was just putting on a brave face. Stressed, maybe worried. Why?
Not much farther, at least I think so.
We'd been walking for a while, and I remembered about how long the drive was from the main road and the front of the house. We passed the spot I'd stopped to rest on my walk ages ago, but the path seemed to continue on. Seemed to continue on? Dave, you drove here. It's a road. So what's the plan when we get to the main road? I guess call for help? See what's happening?
Right, I've been checking my phone occasionally until I see we have reception again. So far, nothing.
Is that normal? I mean, we're on a mountain, right? Tyson slowed down, huffing and grumbling at an answer. Something like that. Bus drove out the mountain to get here, but fuck if I know which one or where.
Don't worry, I've got that sorted. Doesn't mean much if I can't contact anyone, though.
Is that likely?
Well, it's strange that I'm getting no reception whatsoever. Sometimes it can be a bit spotty the further away from civilization you get, but we shouldn't be that far out from the city for it to matter that much.
Do you think someone's messing with it somehow?
What do you mean?
You can't mess with that kind of shit, can you?
You can, but the question would be like, why?
Why would you even know about that, Haas?
Speaking from experience, it's more difficult unless you really go all in. There's no reason to do that here, right?
Oh no. Not unless what? What if it was to assassinate me? What did you do? Nothing, honest.
Is this because of your family?
It's time to invent homophobia on day 11. I mean, it makes sense, right? It's the perfect spot to get rid of me, given we're helpless and alone. With a trained assassin butler. He doesn't know that, though. Tyson roughly grabbed Orlando and shook him. Let me make two things real clear. First is, if this is all because of you, I'm ditching you the first chance I get and taking everyone else with me. Die alone and leave us out of it. Tyson! You shut the fuck up now, Dave. I'm not talking to you right now. He turned back to Orlando, spittle flying from his mouth. Second, and listen real closely, if you think Dean and Roswell died in some fucked up attempt to kill you, get over yourself. Roughly, he threw Orlando back into Haas and turned to march off. He didn't even bother to drag me along with him. Orlando was a mess, trembling and bawling as he tried to stay standing on his own 2 feet. Haas glared daggers into Tyson's back for a few moments before consoling Orlando with something barely whispered to him. On some level, it's like a little valid. It's like, how did you go and make the deaths of how did you make Sal killing Orlando, killing Roswell and Dean about you? But those two sentences together are kind of like a weird combo.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, it seemed to do the trick. Looking to Ty, though, he looked tense, marching forward with his arms almost completely rigid, with his fists clenched tight. Chase after Tyson. Orlando seemed like he'd be okay, but Ty, on the other hand. Ty, come back. I left the other two behind, chasing after Ty, who didn't slow down even after I called to him. His pace was faster than before, and he kept his eyes trained straight forward. Ty? Shut up. I blinked, faltering in my steps to stay next to him, and quickly recovered. Did I do something wrong, Ty? What did I just say? I kept quiet. The pair was just walking for a few minutes longer. The other two hadn't caught up yet, and I was starting to worry. Tyson seemed to be calming down a little. As I went to check, he spoke and beat me to it. Sorry. It's okay. He grunted, and we walked for a couple minutes more in silence. It's really not. You didn't do anything wrong. Right? We stopped for a bit, and Tyson scratched his head. This whole thing, right? It's fucked. I'm stressed, worried, angry, and just, you know, all the things you were narrating earlier, I'm repeating them with my brain out loud, despite being a different person. Just what? Well, I need to keep you safe. I gotta. But you don't think that it was one of them, do you? I don't fucking know. But if it was? But Sal and... Tyson looked me over. He seemed tense, serious. There's only gonna be a second descriptor, but I couldn't tell if he was more worried or angry when he spoke next. Sal? Yeah, no brainer there. And if he's not the only one, what then? But Ty... I kept my voice hushed, throwing a glance over my shoulder to see if the other two were catching up. They're my friends. His response was cold, holding eye contact with me. Sal was your friend. I didn't have a thought to finish. Was Sal my friend? Or at least would he still be after killing both Dean and Roswell? That wasn't what he meant. That wasn't what I meant, Dave. Right, I guess you're right. Ty nodded and took my hand, leaning me forward. Now me? I'm someone you can lean on, pup. His hand tightened slightly, and while he didn't smile, he did give me a quick look before turning forward again. Promise. You know why, right? No? He sighed, shaking his head. And I'll tell you later. I stopped, holding tight to Ty's hand to force him to stop as well. Tell me now. If I do, will you keep moving? Sure. Last time I saw your dad, he made me promise I would. While my grip in Tyson's hand loosened in shock, my heart sinking, his tightened, and he tugged me forward slightly. Look, it sucks, but I promised him I would. Not sure if he was being serious, and chances are he was just messing with me, but that's all I've got right now. So that was the guy talk that happened right before his dad died. It was him promising that Ty takes care of him, which implies that he knew he had a chance of dying, which means it wasn't like a random cop accident, bad day, whoa, oh no, tragedy, but like he was probably confronting Memphis or something. So Memphis killed your dad! So come on. We have a thing to check out if you want to bail from here. I sighed out, nodding a little, but not budging. I regretted pushing now, as bringing Dad to the forefront of my mind and adding that into the mix made my stomach churn. If I'd actually seen him again in my dream last night, I might have broken down then and there. It took a little more coaxing, but before long we continued on and eventually hit the main road. As we stepped out of the driveway, it opened up, the surrounding mountains rising and falling around us. We were high up, with the far edge of the road ending on a sheer cliff. Whoa. I wandered around a little, seeing it all for the first time. It was a shame I'd missed this on the drive to get here, but still. Tyson was off, looking at a large pile of rubble obstructing the road. Haas went to join him, leaving me with Orlando. It looks bad, huh? Nodding, I looked past Orlando to the rubble. It was in huge chunks, having not only blocked the path, but also taking huge chunks out of the road, too. Huge chunks, huge chunks. Come on, man. You think help will be able to arrive? Maybe. I guess we'll just have to see what Haas and Tyson find, huh? They were already making their way over, Haas in particular looking grim.
This can't be right, Dave. You have your phone on you, right? Can you see if you're getting any signal?
I fished my phone out of my pocket and checked it. Low battery, but it was clear that I didn't have any signal either.
But why?
Well, that sucks. The road's fucked too. That landslide has busted the roads up, so climbing over looks like it'd be a sure way to fall to your death, except for when we do that in the other timeline, and it's fine. And it's the same same rock slide. But that would mean we're trapped? Really? Is there no other way off the mountain? Ty seemed to think on it, but his expression quickly turned grim. Unless there's a way through the forest, we're stuck. There's just a number of things I take issue with, but like, just to add to the pile of weird details, just like a highway like this, this is like a government-made road thing. Like, it probably goes somewhere. It's probably not a massive, maintained, dedicated, like government-looking road made for just Hammond. That just seems unlikely, but whatever, I'll accept it. But like, usually these roads are going through the mountains to another destination. If they were carved like this, like, it's actually such a project to carve such a big road on a cliffside where you have to change the shape of the mountain to make the road, that it seems unlikely that even rich people could really do this feasibly in many cases. Like, it just has to be a road that's like on its way from California to Nevada or something. Like, they go somewhere. They don't just stop on the mountain to go to one house. That's insane. Unless there's a way through the forest, we're stuck. Oh, fuck, sorry. I just turned 180 degrees and I realized the road goes that way. Wow, we're idiots. Anyway. Really? But where? How would we know which way to go? It looked like I know, but we can probably safely guess that Sal didn't come this way either. Right. He'd get stuck here too, huh? But does that mean he ran into the forest? Sal.
Okay, so things might be looking bad, but at least we have some things going, right? We have shelter, food, so necessities are all set.
Sure, but that doesn't... I trailed off, and Ty threw an arm over my shoulder. We can make do. I'll keep you safe, Dave. That made me feel better, but I caught Orlando looking anxious, also looking for the same sort of reassurance, but it became clear that Tyson wasn't going to offer the same towards him. He looked to Haas. We'll be fine, right?
Huh? Oh, right, yeah. If we stick together, we'll be alright.
We started to head back to the house with Tyson leading the way. He wasn't pulling me forward by the hand anymore, but I stuck close anyway. Orlando and Haas pulled up the rear, with Orlando lagging further behind. Every time I looked back to check on him, he seemed dejected, tired, from everything that was happening. We arrived back at the mansion, though. Everyone's dead. No, damn it.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Yeah, fucking great morning.
Come now, I would hope to think you would see that more as pleasantries rather than a running commentary on the situation at hand. Don't be pedantic, Tyson.
Tyson huffed, grumbling but saying nothing more on it.
So we have some bad news. You don't say. The road is still out, and there's no signal even there. So strange. There should be no reason why that'd be happening, right?
Not as far as I can tell, but the landslide does create some complications. Supplies for the most part, but we should be able to make do given the stockpiles I've amassed. More than enough for a couple days, but plenty for longer if needed.
Plenty for longer if needed. We're on day 11. So the whole thing about rations being gone really truly was just because Orlando ate all the snacks or whatever? Like,
I don't know. It's an underexplored element. They literally never do run out of food in any meaningful way.
yeah.
It's just like... It feels like they were just grasping at ways to imply raised stakes because nothing is happening.
Yes.
It's just nothing's happening. So let's have them hand-wring about food periodically and then go back to not worrying about food and then worried about food. And now let's give the bearer some marshmallows.
Yeah.
There's so much that bothers me about Benson's sprite, but there's even like just minor things of like, yes, there's the fact that he's just floating in the air and he's weirdly small, but it's also like his like line art isn't the same thickness as every other character. It's just he overtly doesn't match as an asset. It's just
Yeah, he looks really weird. You are correct. He is written in a slightly, or drawn in a slightly different style. The other thing that's kind of odd is that to me it often looks very much like other characters are blurrier than him.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to explain what I'm talking about, but
I think that I think that everyone else was drawn this big, but then Benson was drawn as a full-scale head-to-toe sprite, and then zoomed out.
Yes,
like he's like we're seeing all of him, but then they had to squish him down to make him match the height of the other characters, even though his legs are showing, so it's still weird.
Yeah,
and like they didn't want to make him shorter in the way where he actually like vertically takes up less space, I guess, because they didn't want to get him blocked by the text box or something. But like the result is just he looks very strange because he's genuinely just he's just showing up like a different resolution than every other character. Yeah, so it's just a weird format break where almost every single character is drawn completely forward facing, often with the symmetry tool, like just literally using that. Which I mean, glass houses, I use the same thing all the time, and it's I can't fully parse the logic between characters that are and aren't drawn that way, because like Dom is drawn with the symmetry tool and facing forward, but Benson's sideways and Oz is sideways, and I think I can't remember for sure. I think Memphis and Jack might also be facing forward outside of like anime reference poses.
Yeah.
Like, because Memphis does the hat grab, and Jack has the evil eye pose that is like a standalone drawing. But otherwise, I think they're also facing forward all the time. So like, Benson especially stands out because you see him the most out of all the characters out of the few characters that just like break the format. But even then, I think Oz's line art matches. So it's just Benson who is like the wrong scale and facing the wrong direction, and just in every way just doesn't look quite right. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I shuffled uneasily on the spot. I didn't like the idea of being here longer than we had to. And while knowing we'd be alright for a longer stay, I was more focused on hoping help would arrive soon. That was just so many words for that thought. We're trapped. Here's a paragraph that says we're trapped.
Shall I see you inside? The master is up and about as well, should you wish to discuss anything with him.
Oi, Butler, you seen Sal around anywhere? He wasn't down at the main road.
I'm just trying to understand. What?
Sequestered at the pool. Is that... how do you sequester at a pool?
He's sequestered. I guess he's exiling himself. He's holding himself there. I don't think that's incorrect. It's just nothing. I lost my train of thought. I had a thought there that was kind of odd, but it's fine.
It's dead. I killed it.
Why, yes, I've seen Master Sal. He sequestered himself at the pool and hasn't made a move to the mansion since he arrived.
Since he arrived at the pool. That's what I was confused about. Okay, I'm good. I understand the sentence now.
Really? He hasn't gone looking for anyone or gone to find you or Oswin?
I'm afraid not. He may be unaware that we're up and about, but he arrived there shortly after you all departed for the main road.
And he said nothing? He's done nothing? Benson shook his head, leaving it there. That seemed odd, or at least didn't line up with someone who had murdered 2 people in cold blood. If I hadn't seen it firsthand, I wouldn't have believed him. What? If I hadn't seen it firsthand, I wouldn't have believed... You haven't seen it firsthand. You're being told it secondhand. What a weird sentence.
If you'll excuse me, gentlemen, I best get back to my tasks for the day.
Benson.
The otter looked to Haas, quirking a brow.
Is everything all right?
I think you and I should talk later. I have a bone to pick with you.
Ah, very well. I shall look forward to it.
Just weird. Why don't you... Benson, we need to talk. There. No, we need to schedule an appointment for later, and then we'll talk about how we're going to talk sometime in the future 3 times, and it just keeps going. Like, what? Just say we need to talk. He turned on heel and disappeared inside after addressing Haas, leaving the 4 of us outside. Orlando stepped up, fidgeting and looking around at everything, excluding us. Does that mean the only thing left to do is go inside? I guess so. Huh.
Well, I want to go find Sal. Probably better that someone keeps tabs on if he moves, right?
Reckon you'll be alright by yourself? No, don't send someone alone to the guy who killed 2 people already. I just don't recommend being alone with Sal.
Should be fine.
What does this sentence mean?
Not that I have much of an option, but knowing where he is at least gives us an informed position in case anything goes wrong.
What do you not have much of an option for? Going alone? There's people. Like Tyson or someone? Like, I don't know what he means.
I'm
What
not
about
sure.
What about you, Tyson?
Exactly.
I don't fucking know. I need to get my head straight about everything. Might go find a weapon or something.
Isn't that a little extreme?
No. You're trapped with a murderer. Not going to be caught with that one in case something else comes up. I'll get my iconic hook thing. I felt him look my way, and I quickly looked to the ground. I was flattered, but hearing him so resolved... I was flattered? But hearing him so resolved that it was a potential thing that could happen again started to get to me. I was flattered? That he looked at you? When talking about the fact that something might kill everybody again? I don't... Huh.
Yeah, I got nothing. Fine. Good luck finding one, I guess.
Ty headed inside after grunting once in reply.
Oops. All right. I guess I'll go head around the house and meet up with you guys later, right? You two gonna be okay for a bit?
I think so. I was eyeing the door, already knowing what I was keen on doing. We'll be fine, I think. With a nod, Haas turned to leave, watching Orlando carefully. Then he disappeared around the side of the house and out of sight. I left Orlando and I standing just before the front door, stealing glances at one another. You want to see them, huh? Is it that obvious? Of course it is. You have a lot of love for them, so it's only natural that you'd want to see their mangled bodies. But you don't think I should? It's not that. I'm just concerned that you'll be stuck there and I won't be able to move you. Then don't close the freezer. That's how I'll die. I just want the closure, I think. I wanted a chance to say goodbye. While the words that came out of my mouth felt hollow, what I felt in my chest was more so. I lied to his face about how I was feeling, and he knew it too. What is he thinking then? Still, he didn't say anything. He just nodded before the two of us went inside. Saying that he wants closure is a lie? Orlando and I crossed the threshold in the foyer and I sighed out. The smell of blood still lingering in the air. Nowhere near as strong, but it was a reminder of what had happened the night before. Not that we needed it, given the red smear still on the tiles. Cool. It was dry as far as I could tell, but cleaning it wasn't something I was keen on doing. But then I heard something coming from the room next to us, where Roswell and Dean were. It was the game's third song. It was the first time I'd bothered coming into this room, and part of me wondered how I'd missed it. Once again, once again, a thing showing up for the first time needs to be established by the writer. Like, I'm saying, like, he feels the need to point out, this thing is new. We're establishing this place now. Look at this place. Which once again calls into question the other route where it just shows up one day and I'm like, new room! And the game doesn't acknowledge it when it clearly they do feel the need to acknowledge the new room. So it's just like, he just doesn't keep track of what's new for each route. So you either experience stuff in the order where you experience each thing as early as possible in the timeline, or it'll just show up one day unannounced in the other timelines. Not that I had anything special going on, just a small room to just sit and relax in. That said, as we entered, I noticed immediately what the sound was. The sound was a soft singing coming from the older boar in the room. Oswin was sitting beside Roswell. Looking up at us, as we entered the room. As soon as he'd noticed us, he'd stopped, falling silent. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then he slowly nodded, dusting off his lab coat.
So this scene reads as this scene obviously is meant to be like a sentimental moment where it portrays that Oswin is like a person with some sort of emotional core. But in my head, did you ever get to the part in Twin Peaks where Leland sings Mares Maresy Dotes? Do you know what I'm talking about?
The character where I talking about the scene where he starts singing at a whole table of people, and then he has like a seizure,
mental
or
breakdown. Yeah, that's what I get out of this.
Just maintaining eye contact and singing for dominance. I need to get back to Twin Peaks.
You do. It's great.
It's a long
show.
marathon.
It is.
Yeah. I don't want to sit in my computer chair watching TV. And it's not even on any of the streaming services that make sense. So it's annoying. You're like, what do you mean it's on Paramount? Fuck. Yeah, so he is sideways. He's got mysterious furry glasses. Just kind of chilling there. Hello? Hi. Again, more silence as I quickly looked to Orlando and then back to Oswin. What were you doing? No, what were you doing? I got surprised by Orlando. He's tricked me. Nothing. Nothing at all. But I heard... He sighed out, shaking his head and looking back down to Roswell. Roswell's in this room?
I thought that's what it was implying a minute ago.
I thought they put them in the freezer. Did they just talk about it then leave? I suppose I've been caught, haven't I? If you must know, I was visiting the deceased much in the same way I assumed you two were here for. Okay?
Yeah, we can tell you were singing to the deceased.
Yeah.
What?
Ah, you caught me. But there are friends. Why are you here? Just resolving something in myself, shall we say. This is probably a bit presumptuous, but were you two related? You're both boars, after all. No. At least not in any meaningful way. But...
literally...
Only Roswell? They're definitely related.
They're definitely related. Yeah, 100% a lie.
He's doing a bullshit, like tricky language prophecy bullshit trick where he's like, haha, technically this meant this in spirit or something.
But the problem is just that even that, like, we're not related in any meaningful way, at least. No, you are related in an explicitly meaningful way.
Yeah, where you're genetically related and you think of him as a son because he might actually be your son, but...
I think even if he doesn't think of him as a son, he's literally meaningfully related to him for the plot. For the plot. What are you talking about?
I don't feel I need to answer you regarding this, but I will. Truth be told, why you're here is for the most part because of Roswell, or more accurately, his family. Okay, but then why? Because as someone who does not have any children of his own, seeing one so young die, I'm not so callous to be upset of the... typo, I guess. I'm not so callous as to not be upset of their passing too, I assume is what they mean.
Yeah.
I'm not so callous as to be upset about a dead person is an insane
of
sentence.
Of their passing,
so
to be upset of? That's also a typo.
Yeah, no, just...
upset about.
This doesn't... It's just not good. It conveys the opposite of what they mean. It just so happens that Roswell in particular, I was at least aware of prior to this. I read sentences out loud that you write. It just so happens that Roswell in particular I was at least aware of prior to this. I was aware of it. It just so happens that I was aware of Roswell in particular. You know what? This just has to be written entirely differently. This is just it's still like a nightmare what you're trying to convey. You're trying to establish that he knew about Roswell, but that's an upsetting sentence. It's just a mess. Did he know you too? Potentially. My dealings were primarily with his parents, all things considered. That sentence just kept going for 3 more words for no reason. Or what? All things considered? Of what? What?
There's, it's one of the things
it's just so autopilot.
Yeah. And one of the things this is making me think of is like how people are kind of conned into thinking this is an interesting mystery, where like ostensibly when people play through this game, most people are going to get to this route before they get to the B route. Most people are going to try to play the game the way that it is heavily hinting to not reveal Oz. Because even when we chose the B route, we were like, oh, this is very intentionally signposting we should not reveal him. Let's do it anyway and see what happens. But it's
this will be a funny
one of the
bad
ways,
end.
Yeah. And it's where you can see the game was written not as a big cogent timeline, but as a stream of consciousness, lay the tracks in front of you as you go type story, is that we as players, by experiencing that route first, understand the plot critical aspects of this relationship. But if you didn't do that route first, this reads as Oswin like he's like manipulating them. He's lying to them about Roswell and his relationship, which will be really interesting when it turns out that it's a twist. They actually are related, which again, I don't even think has fully been revealed to us. They're related. We know that because the vault must be something, and it's clear that his mom or his dad or something is related
really
to them because of the way genetics
that they're red
work.
boars, and they keep elaborating on his extended family, and Roswell knows him, and he's here because of family, and you're like, okay, well, if this doesn't line up eventually, then that's insane.
Yeah, that's wild. But even if we give it the benefit of the doubt that this is Oswin like manipulating him, part of the thing that is weird about this is that when people manipulate each other, when they're lying like this, they don't just say random things like, we're not related, at least not in any way that matters. That implies that sets up the idea that if there is any doubt to them being related, then even if it turns out they are related, then it is not in a meaningful way. It doesn't actually affect or inform their relationship. Even if this is a lie, the plausible deniability is established in a way that underscores the character relationship. But you and I know from later down in the plot that they are explicitly related in an explicitly meaningful way. Even if they aren't father and son like our hunch is, they are explicitly, meaningfully related in a way that is like fundamental to the quantum mechanics of this game. They explicitly explain this. And the only explanation for this is Grizz came up with that idea a little bit later down the line and figured out how the vault works a little bit later down the line, or justified it narratively down the line. So this ends up feeling not like a clever setup. It just feels like Oswin says random bullshit, and his lying and manipulation wasn't some great con on part of the author of the story misleading you. It was just him making some shit up, and people didn't catch it because they didn't read the other route first, and we didn't get to that point at the time this update was released.
It does just sometimes feel like how I talk about something as a tabletop RPG player when I don't want to lock the answer in yet.
Yeah, completely. And it's like, there's times when improv like that can work, but when you are the sole architect of a story, and your story is ostensibly a twisty, turny, everything adds up in the end, mastermind mystery, like, to compare this to tabletop, it's really fucking hard to roleplay an intelligent character who solves puzzles when you're dumb. And I struggle with this. My character, I'm playing it like in Deadlaws right now, I'm playing a fucking chaotic, evil, 5 levels higher than the rest of the cast sorcerer. Like, I'm playing a super intelligent, or not intelligent, but like ahead of the crew, knows things everyone else doesn't character. But I'm Toaster. I'm dumb as a rock. Like, it's hard to do that. So I don't fault people for struggling with that. But when you write a mystery that's meant to be a cogent mystery with like a mastermind and like complicated character relationships and an intertwining narrative, you have to be smart enough to weave that narrative. You have to be the mastermind. That's what you have to do as the writer. And it just doesn't seem like Grizz is masterminding this. He's written a mastermind, but the actual machinations of the plot and the character relationships don't actually like weave together to form the proper tapestry. And it's just so sloppy. It's so frustrating because of this.
Yeah. They keep telegraphing that there's a mystery to solve, and they even do that so much that the characters literally get around and go into Sherlock and Watson mode to solve the mystery, but then they accomplish nothing. And then the more we learn about the game, the more just basic facts don't even line up half the time, and characters don't line up. So it's like, more so than most genres, the mystery genre needs a lot of consistency and continuity and things all lining up, or it just fundamentally won't like function as a story.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can ever be is Sherlock. BBC Sherlock ending season 2 with Sherlock seemingly dying, but then surviving, and then looking directly at the camera and saying, "Can you solve the mystery of how he lived?" Then coming back 2 years later and being like, "You're an idiot for even trying to figure that out. What a jackass. Why would you try to solve a mystery in the thing? Anyway, I'm just gonna move on now." And it's like, oh, you didn't have an answer, and you tried to escape it by mocking the people who cared about the thing you told them to care about, kind of thing. It's like, if you don't put in the work, then to make the whole thing consistent and work and so on, then it wasn't worth trying to do it in the first place.
Completely.
Potentially.
Game gets me worked up.
My dealings were primarily with his parents, all things considered, right? That's what I said before. Just that the whole rant happened because of all things considered. Ha ha ha. But it's just, why did that sentence keep going? What? Oh, well. Oswin shook his head, sighing out. Sorry, I should give you your time with your friends. If you need me, I'll be upstairs in the conservatory. Catching rays. He left quickly, hands buried in his pockets and keeping his gaze forward. I looked to Orlando, unsure of what to say. He seemed shaken, but said nothing. Turning to look at the doorway that Oswin left through, I wondered if my impression of him was right. Was he suffering like we were? Was his reaction to things happening coming from stress, the same way it was happening for Tyson? Could the multiple murders have in some way stressed the owner of the house in which the murders happened? Carefully, I stepped forward. I knew where I was headed, mostly on smell alone. What? You can literally see their bodies. What do you mean, mostly on smell? Even if I couldn't see both of them placed on their back on the floor, or even by the trail of blood that had been left in their wake, is that stop re-explaining that there's a trail of blood. We get it. You've said it so many times. They'd been dragged into their resting places, onto this carpet. We dragged them from the wood onto this nice carpeted room and obliterated that carpet with the trail of blood from these bodies. Orlando followed behind, the two of us stopping next to Roswell first. Maybe it was because Oswin was just here, or because he was closer. I don't really know. Why do you... Shut up. Just shut up. Just shut up. Shut up. Maybe it was because Oswin was just here, or maybe because he was closer. I don't know. Shut up. You said... It makes the narrations just sound so stupid. This always cut the second sentence, just every time. It's always so stupid. First sentence declares what happened. Second one, I don't know, I could make an attempt at rationalizing this behavior if I felt like it, but I'm gonna give up. Then it stops and it gives up. It's like, okay, shut up. Roswell. I looked down to his face, and if it wasn't for the large wound in his neck and shoulder, he'd look like he was sleeping. Just fucking, what a comedy horror beat. A fucking cabin in the woods ass scene of a decapitated character, and then the lady is like, he looks so peaceful. To like the decapitated head.
Yeah.
Maybe sick, maybe a little cold, but definitely in need of a bath. What? Stop thinking, Dave. You'll
hurt yourself.
I'm just thinking so much about like how Dan Olsen explains that like half of the reason why the 50 Shades movie it feels like such an improvement over the source material is that you just can't hear the protagonist thinking the whole time.
Yeah.
Because every second of the narration is just like, oh my fucking god, what is she thinking? Stop. And instead, like a real human actress that knows what she's doing had to play this character, so she's just inherently a better character as a result. Dave, are you okay? Sitting down next to Roswell, I crossed my legs, croaking out a reply. I'm fine. I feel like crossing your legs is weird body language for sitting down next to a corpse. I'm just like, I don't know what that added. Dave has to be doing something. He crosses his legs. Imagine the visual there. It's just, I don't know, it's just weird. The smell of his blood was sickening, making my stomach churn. I was surprising myself by how well I was coping from not losing my breakfast, then and there, seeing the combination of wound and smell. Orlando sat down next to me and kept to himself for a bit longer while I tried to decide if I wanted to check Roswell's pulse. Don't touch the body, stop. I know I wouldn't get anything, but there was some part of me that hoped in some way he would still be alive. He took an axe to the neck and has been laying there for hours. You know my favorite memory of Roswell? I remember.
No, shut up.
I remember one time he called Haas out for not liking something I had made. Cookies, I think. But he made a huge lecture on snack foods until Haas had to bribe him with candy to make him stop talking. He was so annoying.
What a wonderful character trait.
That's your favorite memory of Roswell? That he was annoying for you? Cool. I think so. Oh. It was just very him, right? That he'd use his intelligence to both defend something important to me, but also trick someone else into giving him something he wanted.
Is he really intelligent? Was that his plan the whole time, or was he just inherently naturally fucking annoying? Because that's what I think is actually what is true about Roswell.
He was written to be intelligent in that the game says he is intelligent.
Gotcha.
It's
funny because he was written to be annoying too, because the game shows him to be very, very fucking annoying.
But
it hurts, Ness.
I don't think it ever came from a bad place, right? He'd always toe the line before taking it too far, but he always meant well. I can't believe he forgot what he'd done to us. No. I wonder what this game reads as if you remove all the narration and also all the times that Dave speaks.
Probably better.
I wonder. I nodded slowly, thinking it over. I think my favorite memory of Roswell was the first day we met. It happened so long ago. We were both so young, but if that never happened, we would have never become friends.
I don't think that, Dave. I'm sure you would have crossed paths at some point, right? You were neighbors.
And they were neighbors. Maybe, but the day is still special to me. Stealing another look to Roswell, I cracked a smile, if a weak one. I cracked a weak smile. Just say that. Just say it in stronger language. Don't write everything like it's a caveat that you add it to the end. And also stop weakening all of your statements by saying, I don't know, maybe, a little bit, kinda, at the end. Just
Yeah.
clear, concise, quick language. Like, and I'm not against flowery language, but he doesn't do that. He just does long language. He just writes them as sentences twice as long as they need to be. Thank you for that day, Roswell. Getting up, I wandered over to Dean and sat down the same way, cross-legged. I noticed Orlando hesitated a moment before he came and joined me in the same way he did before. I knew Dean pretty well, I think. Did you?
Better than I did, that's for sure. Why was he hanging out with a high schooler anyway?
Don't worry, he's dead. I nodded slowly, reaching out and touching his arm. Maybe it was just that he was larger in stature than Roswell, but his injury didn't seem nearly as bad. He was a good friend. Confusing sometimes, but a good friend.
Confusing how?
I don't know, I think it was like... I sighed out, running a hand through my fur. Tyson and I went out every now and again for like a road trip or something to get out of the house, right? But Dean probably did that more.
Really? But then... about you two dating?
Flashing him a smile, I looked back to Dean. Dean always kept saying it wasn't a date because of one thing or another. Either something went wrong, or that it didn't go exactly how he'd pictured it, or someone else came along too. But if I'm being honest, part of me thinks they were. Maybe not all of them, but enough to make me wonder if we'd been dating, and I'd just been too dumb to realize it.
What?
Were they dating or not?
Yeah.
I need a third
that's the
party.
point.
I need the voice of God to just tell me at some point, like, because he's adding so many caveats. I'm like, were you, or did you just hang out in the car a few times on like? How did neither of you not know? But if Dean keeps saying it's not a date, that means they were dates. Like, if he keeps needing to specify like this one didn't count, then that means you guys were dating. That means you guys were in a relationship, and he's just like, oh, this wasn't good enough or something. But that's dating. It's not actually. It's not ambiguous. Like, it just is or isn't.
Were
Really?
you guys Facebook official? Like, that's what it sounds like this is trying to get at. And it's like, never mind. I don't want to go into that. I don't want to think about it. I think that the way that relationship is communicated is comedically off base and terrible, and needs to be fixed. Like, if you want that, it just needs to be fixed. That's all. And it is bad. And it's not even that Dean and Dave can't date. In fact, the story would make a lot more sense if they were on again, off again, weird romance people who didn't know where they stood with each other.
Almost like he's like a weird game of telephone with Leo, but one that's made so confusing you can't parse what to think about it, and so it doesn't functionally work in the narrative ever.
Just doesn't read to me. Not cogent.
Yep. Very strange.
Really? I would have thought that if it came to something like that, he'd be more, I don't know, forward?
Yeah, maybe. I clenched my fists as they rested in my lap. I felt stupid, and now I'd never know the answer because of what happened. Hey, Orlando, I'm sorry to ask this, but, the words were hard. I found myself choking them out on the verge of tears from where I'd worked myself up to.
What is it?
Can I have a couple moments alone with them for just a second? It won't be long.
No, shut up and go away.
He stood, hands twitching in uncertainty.
Okay, I'll just wait outside. If anything happens, I'll.
Sentiment trailed off there, replaced instead by an affirming nod as he wandered towards the door.
Take as long as you need, okay?
Orlando closed the door to the room, and no sooner had it closed I heard him sobbing, collapsing against the wall just outside the door. But then something in me snapped, something that clicked into place suddenly, that made all the sadness ease off all at once. This wasn't my fault. None of this was my fault. Oh wow. I'm also not sad about people who die when it's not my fault. That's how that works. There was a spot on the floor that I started to focus on as my mind started to wander. It wasn't my fault. What? I don't...
Why does he think it was his fault?
It was never in question.
This was never in question.
This never came up until now. Why is he...
I mean,
what?
Yeah, and I'm not
the word
confused
guilt has
here
not
about...
appeared in the last 2 hours.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, I'm not sitting here confused about people having an emotional, like a very strong emotional response to something like this. That makes sense. The thing that doesn't really make sense to me here is just like, yeah, it just seems...
I don't know.
This is odd.
Let's see where they're going with
this
it,
is just
guess.
odd. Yeah.
My hands flexed, tensing and relaxing as a new feeling started to replace the sadness as I remained in that room. Sal's fault? It was Sal. My fists clenched. Soon after, my jaw followed. Then the growling. The frown next. Sal took them away. Sal killed them. Wow, you caught up with Tyson from hours ago. Just, this is his evolution. I guess it's not the first time Dave has just been like, I need to figure out who to blame and attack them, but it's like it's weird that like just suddenly this is the moment where he hits this feeling and no other moment. Stepping out of the room, I closed the door behind me. Maybe it was the smell of blood, but I was in a daze, focusing in on the sole thing that seemed to be the problem.
Sorry, Dave, I'll be okay.
He resorted to wiping his face with the bottom of his shirt, and he stood to face me.
Dave? What's wrong? You're growling.
He was ignored. My eyes trained on the door leading to the backyard. If Sal wasn't out there, then I knew where I needed to go. Orlando grabbed me roughly and shook me by the shoulders.
Dave? Snap out of it. What happened?
Sal?
Sal? What about Sal?
I thought it over in my head. There was a solution. A permanent one. And at the moment, I was blinded to all other possibilities and all sense of reason. I'm going to kill him.
You can't!
Dave just turns into a murderer sometimes, very briefly.
Dave just is the least consistent character of all time. And also...
Just every now and then he wants to crush Thanatos with his bare hands, but then he also goes on to, like, have sad CGs where he watches Thanatos question his own existence, all
yeah,
in the same route.
Yeah, sure do.
Uh-huh. His grip on me tightened, as if trying to stop me from trying. No, literally. Because he's literally stopping you from trying. Stop weakening every statement as if it's like an interpretation or a hypothetical, or I don't know, man, maybe you'll fill this in later. I haven't really figured out my own plot yet. Like, you sound so uncertain about every statement, but it's just what the scene is. Explicitly.
Yeah.
It's not ambiguous.
I'm not gonna let you make that mistake. I'm not gonna let you put yourself in that sort of danger.
He killed 2 of our friends, Orlando. He killed them.
I know. But think about what you're saying. I'm just as upset as you. Maybe you're more upset than me, but still.
I'm just as upset as you. Maybe you're more upset than me. Okay, whatever.
I'm not about to resort to killing someone over this. Trust me. Please.
Yeah, I do trust that you're not going to kill them, because I will. He flashed me a quick smile before easing off enough to keep just one hand on my shoulder.
I mean, I understand characters. I understand characters that suddenly want revenge and it's like unhealthy and bad for them. Like, I get that. That's understandable. That's a completely, like, I get that. Like, that's not hard to understand. The thing that's confusing to me is, like, Dave, obviously he's not in his right mind, but he's like, I know a solution to this. We'll kill him. And it's like, is that actually a solution for this problem? You're not, why are you suddenly making this shift right now when he's like, I know a permanent solution. And it's like, yeah, is there any concern that this is gonna happen again? You're adjudicating this and getting help to leave. Like, okay, lock him up. Like, what? And I understand wanting retributive justice, but just be like, position that as revenge, not as some like weird Dave logic. Like, I don't get why why right now it's manifesting Dave as a, like, you know, someone who's like on the edge of mental collapse and he's gonna do this horrible thing when, like, it just doesn't need that. Like, it doesn't need to be that. It's whatever. I mean, it's
a
fine.
mess. It's just I'm gonna lose my mind any minute now. Amidst the growling, I spat my reply in a cold tone, one that I'd only ever seen a couple of times from other people, none of which good. You don't know what I fucking want. Sal, language. I'm sorry. I shoved him away, my heart racing and breathing in deep. I feel like when your heart's racing, I think your breathing is shallow.
Generally, yes.
Dave, please. Once he's dead? Once it's done? Then what? Question made me pause. If you kill Sal, or try to anyway, what happens if you get killed instead? Fuck morality. What if he just kicks your ass? Giant man. I looked to Orlando, wanting to see if he had any follow-up. If you died, I'd be sad, but imagine what Tyson would do. He'd try killing Sal, and either go to jail or die to Sal as well. None of these everyone's just gonna keep dying on Sal. My heart sank, resolve crippled, but not dead. Killing just creates more killing. It creates more sadness, Dave.
They're doing this morality play stuff, this extremely unearned morality play stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a cycle of violence, you know? Everything is just the cycle of violence. Oh, God, I hate this fucking narrative. I hate this tropey, overplayed... Like, this is what I'm talking about when I say, like, these are narratives that lack nuance.
Well, it's also just like, it's like miming things you've heard of.
Yes, exactly.
Because, like, what cycle of violence?
Yeah.
Sal killed 2 people and might kill more people, and then you kill him.
Trance.
If you kill him, then it's like, well, Sal's dead.
Yeah.
Now who's gonna kill who? It's like these aren't factions. Like like, I know that he's doing the thing because it's his family, but, like, you can't compare the Dragon Mafia or any kind of narrative about factions having cycles of violence like Romeo and Juliet with, this is a murder on our hands. What if we killed him so he doesn't kill people? It's just like, it's not what that means. It's not what these concepts apply to. The best interpretation you can have is just that it's Orlando being, like, unreasonable. Not that it's unreasonable to stop someone from killing someone, but, like, his argument is just him kind of being in hysterics because he's just having a really bad day, but you can't really, like, say that what he's saying makes sense.
Yeah. No, he's just going Joker-fied. Like, that's what's happening.
Killing just creates more killing. It creates more sadness, Dave. I've seen so much of it in my family, it always ends up this way. I want a life free of that. I want to be a baker, or someone so far removed from bloodshed that I never have to consider running into it. I want ice cream!
Then what,
I
Orlando?
mean, that's all
What do you
good, well
expect me
and
to
good,
do?
Orlando, but, like, also...
We didn't opt into
like,
being in a murder mystery or a murder scenario, just a murder. The murder happened around us. It's already here. Then what, Orlando? What do you expect me to do? He gulped, unsure of where to put his hands once they'd been removed from me entirely. His reply came as a timid whisper, eyes darting to the floor. I don't know. Nothing, I guess? Just don't do the thing. That's the thing. But please, maybe just try talking with him? Maybe don't do that. You don't need to do that either. You want me to talk with him? Yeah, I do. I get that you're hurting. We're all hurting, but if you have any respect for me, or even for the friendship you had with Sal, you'd at least talk with him before deciding to execute him yourself. He's not my friend after what he did. Do you really think that, Dave? Do you really think that the Sal you know would have just done that without a reason? I gritted my teeth, fighting desperately to stay mad. But I broke, sighing out, and the madness faded away to a dull throb. Fine, I'll talk to him first. Then I'll drown him. Thank you. But if he admits to having done it on purpose, I don't know what I'll do. Hopefully it won't come to that. Well, I know he's at the pool, so that's where I'm going. Where are you headed? I don't know. Maybe go find Haas, who was going to Sal at the pool. Maybe figure out something to do with to keep my mind busy. I don't think I'm ready to confront Sal. Maybe go find Haas, who last we saw not only was going to find Sal, but explicitly was going to watch Sal. So he's there, unless something else happened. Okay. Maybe I'll just wait here, stay out of trouble, and somewhere people can find me in case something happens, right? Orlando reached out and took my hand, cradling it gently. Be careful. I will. I stepped outside and immediately stopped in my tracks.
This wasn't part of the deal.
I noticed Benson's eyes flicking to me before going back to Haas, his tone level.
Your understanding of the deal was clearly mistaken then. Regardless, we have company.
A third one? That's never happened.
I believe you've had your questions answered for now, no?
Never had it be 3 separate chunks of text in one screen when it's only 2 lines. Haas looked to me quickly, then back to Benson.
Fine.
Haas stomped around me and went inside, closing the door loudly behind him. What was that about?
A disagreement.
About? With a sigh, Benson looked out into the yard.
Truthfully, it doesn't matter, but if you're that curious, he wished for information and I gave him exactly what he wanted. He was just unhappy with the resolution.
I looked beyond him towards the pool. Is Sal still at the pool?
Indeed.
Good.
What are you intending to do, Dave?
Wouldn't you like to know? Just getting my Thanatos impression ready. I don't know yet.
Then out of obligation, I will advise you to exercise caution, just in case.
I grunted, walking past Benson towards the pool. As I approached the fence to the pool, I could see Sal sitting there. I could see Sal sitting there, sitting on the bridge, staring into the water. Good sentence. Nailed it. Good job. The feelings I had before started to well up, but I kept Orlando in mind as I passed through the gate. He didn't budge or even acknowledge that I'd arrived. I walked over to where he sat and stood beside him, my hands hurting from how tightly I had them balled into fists. Sal. He didn't respond, his eyes still watching the water instead of looking at me directly. I've come to talk. I look him over and he seemed larger than I remembered. Maybe it was my mind telling me not to pick a fight here, but the crocodile before me sighed, nodding slowly. His voice cracked when we spoke, slowly turning to face me.
Holy crap. Sorry, that showed up on Discord. My microphone just showed up as working. That was thunder, like right outside my window.
Oh.
That was like profoundly, that was like house shakingly loud. I wonder if one of the houses on my street got struck by lightning.
Oh.
That was wild.
I did not hear that.
Good job for once, Discord.
Classic Discord, always masking the sounds that we're going to acknowledge anyway, so it's just confusing.
Wow, that was bananas. It is really windy outside all of a sudden. Anyway, sorry, that's the weather report from Toaster. All right.
Okay.
He said nothing else, and I found myself folding my arms expecting him to at least apologize or something. Do you have anything to say for yourself?
I'm sorry, Dave.
Well, sorry's not gonna cut it, young man.
Didn't we already have a conversation about how he might have been hypnotized? Like,
I mean, every time that we saw him, it was like, wow, he's like in a trance or something, and we're just gonna
but Benson explicitly was like, when something like this happens, people are it can be suggestible, so be on the lookout for that. That's dangerous.
We fast forwarded through it, so I don't have the exact recap of everything, but I'm pretty sure that the entire previous day was entirely about setting up Sal's hypnosis as a mechanic. And then
I mean, it was the
Dave
same
just
conversation
kind of
we heard in the other route.
Dave just kind of had like a break in that moment where he just like forgets everything about this and now just blames him for everything, which is, he has more information than anyone and he's the least forgiving about it. Well, sorry's not gonna cut it.
I know. It should have been me.
His whole form shuddered and slumped further over.
Why? Why wasn't it me? Why did I? Why can't I remember?
Is that true? You really don't remember?
I should have given Sal Squidward voice.
It's not that far off.
Future.
Future.
Please, tell me what happened. I need to know. Tyson wasn't lying. You could hear it in his voice. I killed them both somehow, but how can I not remember that?
He sighed again, hands clasped together in his lap, looking to me again, only briefly before his gaze was peeled away elsewhere. Mimicking him, I sighed out, throwing my hands into my pockets and turning to stare into the water like he did. This was closer to the Sal I remembered, completely different from the Sal I witnessed murdering my friends, which I have no explanation for. I'll never figure out how that could possibly have happened. I have never had a single conversation that could possibly relate to this topic. All right, I'll tell you. I sat down far enough away that I was out of arm's reach and began to relay the events to him. He didn't move while I explained how it all started, with the scream and all of the us rushing down to see him and Roswell. I watched his reflection in the water pale as I told him what he did to Dean when he tried to get in the way. Then what he did to Roswell soon after. I explained what he did next, and I felt myself getting angry. Retelling the events was making me scared, and in turn, enraged, given he was nearby. I got angry, and then I got angry, because of the anger. Angie! When I finished by explaining what happened right before we met him that morning, he reacted. Met in the morning. Oh, after hours later. Okay. It started with his eyes bulging in fear as he stared into the water. It continued by his shoulders heaving and shaking. It ended with his voice cracking as he turned to me to speak. What ended?
I killed Dean in Roswell.
Yeah. He repeated the sentiment over and over, his voice cracking more as if he were sobbing between each intake of air. His breathing quickened, and he clutched his chest desperately.
That was a profoundly Dax delivery when you were like, yeah. So that was funny. That's good.
All of my friends slowly make me funnier, and I steal all of their abilities.
You steal all of their jokes and mimic all their voices, and soon enough you'll become them. Yes, it is true.
It's true. We love this.
Benson yesterday with the warning and...
You okay?
Dave, I know you said it's not going to cut it, but...
Sal, the only reason we're talking right now is because Orlando begged me to. I was going to murder you with my bare hands, which I can definitely accomplish as a tiny little yin boy and you a giant, famously hard to kill crocodile. You killed 2 people close to me, and the only way out of this I could see was to do to you what you did to them, so... He nodded slowly, letting his hands hang in the space between his legs.
Would that help? Would that be enough? Because if it is, then you can do it. No amount of apology can make up for what I did.
They really like to do this now. It's happening 3 times per line. I wish I could just complete each line, but you can't tell when there's more. I guess I could just press A more and then press backwards. I looked at him, angry enough that I wasn't sure that I could hold back from following through if I was given the opportunity.
I can only apologize over and over until my throat is sore. But if it happened once, it could happen again.
You can apologize more.
Or you could just, stop taking the fucking... You could stop taking the fucking sleeping medication that the butler told you not to take, that you seemingly don't actually need to take. I don't fully understand why he's taking the medication to begin with. Because even if he's just having trouble sleeping in the plot, it kind of disappears anyway after he stops taking it in the Sal route as well. He just falls asleep. Is it because he doesn't have someone to cuddle with? Is that the whole point of Dave, sleeping on his chest like a stuffed animal? Did this idiot, did he literally murder a bunch of people because he forgot to pack a stuffed animal pillow? Get him a squishmallow or something. What the fuck?
I think they might have actually said that. I think they might have said that he forgot his watermelon plushie, and that's why he can't sleep.
Yeah.
I think that might have come up 100 years ago.
I think that is the case. I just can't even think about it. I just can't even think about it. I'm not thinking about it.
Thought terminated. I must finish story. If no think, only words.
That's why, to keep everyone else safe, I accept I might need to die.
I stood up, breathing in deep. Within the last hour, I'd gone from grieving over the deaths of my friends to being in a blind rage, to being talked down and back, around to wanting to get back at the person who made it all happen. Was this really the same person? At the same time, could we risk it? All things considered, we were trapped, potentially for a while, with someone that wants us dead. Sal, Kill Sal! I hesitated, a sudden flash of my dad crossing my mind. Was this the right thing to do? Was this what he would have done if it meant keeping me safe? Sal looked at me, waiting. He wasn't putting up a fight, and if I wanted to, it'd be done. Kill Sal! We're no longer friends. We stopped being friends the moment you killed Dean and made it worse by killing Roswell, too.
The two people in the plot that we've spent the least amount of time with and like the least. You killed my best friend.
No, we're totally maybe almost dating-ish, kind of, I glared at him as hard as I could, which probably looked adorable, and I wished I'd brought something with me after all. Or met with Tyson to see if he found a weapon of some kind. I hate you. The growling had returned. My teeth were clenched, and my fists soon to follow. I couldn't bring myself to yell, but instead the voice that came out of my mouth was barely recognizable as my own. You'd be better off dead. He's gonna walk into the pool and die.
Probably. Just drown him.
I understand.
It's the only outcome I can register. Like, if he's going to die, the only way that makes sense is for him to recreate the way his sister died. Otherwise, if anything, almost anything else happens, he'd be like, "What are you doing? How would you land on that as how he died? If you're here, you're even here at the pool." I stood there for a moment, wondering what happened next. With no weapon, killing him was going to be difficult. Stop saying
Dave, all things considered, I don't think you'll be able to kill me. You're a wimpy little wimpy boy. You are not strong enough to kill me.
He just became a really big fan of American radio when he was writing this chapter. So he just keeps saying all things considered over and over again. Like the fifth one. I shot him a look.
I just think it's gonna be really hard for you to kill me. It might make your American life very hard to deal with.
How many public radio?
Yeah, if only we could figure out how to reach the outside
here.
world via some sort of radio lab. I'm trying to think of what we can do about this conundrum. Wait, don't tell me. That's a game show on NPR.
We're making jokes because we're cultured.
Yeah. If the game was better, most of it would be this. I like normal playthroughs where we joke about the things happening and we riff on it like a Let's Play do. But all we have left is Dread and Hollow Hearts. That's not a name of a radio show.
But don't worry, I'll handle it. So you won't kill me. In fact, I will kill me.
Why should I trust you? I don't think you need to trust. I don't think there's a lot of trust involved in watching Sal commit suicide. Like, I don't. What?
As it stands, I'd probably go to jail. If you killed me, then you're going to jail instead. So don't worry about it. I'll handle it myself.
Me when he has a headache. It didn't sink in at first, but it dawned on me, causing me to take a step back. But all I could do was nod, turning away. Was this really all right? It didn't matter. What had been said had been said. When I left the pool, I looked towards the mansion. No one outside as far as I could see, and I hesitated, heading back inside. No matter how I looked at it, I couldn't avoid it forever. As I walked back inside, I was shaking. Once I'd said it, there was no going back. It was too late to change what had happened now. Nah, you could just be like, no, don't. And then it's changed, Dave. You didn't shoot him. You said you should die. You can literally take it back. Probably could do with some witnesses. Like, if you kill me, then you'll go to jail. Anyway, Dave said he was gonna kill Sal, then went to Sal, and then we found Sal dead later. Seems like Dave killed Sal. Like, that's gonna be a problem for him.
Yeah.
Dave, did talking to Sal go all right?
Yeah. My voice was barely a squeak, and I couldn't look him in the eye.
And Sal, he's He's still there?
Kept my eyes trained on the ground and I didn't respond. But maybe that was the problem. As the next moment, Orlando grabbed me by the shoulders, shaking me gently. Dave should just answer like how Oz answers questions. He's still there in all the ways that are important. Sal's still there, right? Padme meme. Padme
Exactly. I love how our brain goes to the same exact place.
Yeah, it's my favorite meme. It's just that's an incredible template. I love it so much. I looked him in the eye briefly before looking away. The moment I went to answer him, he stepped back, terrified.
What did you do?
Nothing. Throwing my hands up, I walked around him so I wasn't backed up against the back door. We talked. That's all.
Liar. You did something to him, didn't you?
I did nothing. I flashed him my hands, accompanied by an annoyed, if sarcastic, smile. That's a weird expression to give over the suicide you just caused that you felt bad about 1 line ago? You're being glib? See?
Jesus.
Hands are clean. He's fine. Orlando. He's fine. I'm fine. We're all just damn fine. I wish Dave was a dick. God, he'd be such a better protagonist if he was a dick. I love... Well, some of my favorite parts of reading Echo is when Chase is just awful. Like,
imagine
it's
if he
so
had
fun
it,
to voice act when he's just awful.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if
Characters with personalities.
wouldn't it just if he had a personality? Is exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah. It'd be fun if these lines were ever fun to read because characters had fun arguments. Of what? Calm? Like, it's great. I love reading dumb shit like that. It's great.
You're making it really hard to cope, Dave. I thought I could depend on you through this, but now you're just acting like a jerk.
Sorry. You're not sorry, unless you're badly written. I looked around the foyer, wondering why Orlando was still alone. He did say stay here, to not go missing, but even that seemed odd. Where's Haas?
Oh, he was here for a bit and then wandered off to find Tyson.
And have you seen Tyson?
Not since we got back.
Do you think they forgot that they wrote that Haas was gonna watch Sal? The idea that Tyson was missing made me worry. At least with Haas. He's not missing, you just haven't gone anywhere but this room. At least with Haas, he was someone accounted for. Thankfully, it didn't last as a problem for long. Oh, it's a fake problem, cool. Ty! The sudden pang of relief made me rush over to him and hug him in the middle, but something was wrong. He didn't budge or even flinch. He pushed me away firmly before folding his arms over his chest, looking between Haas and Orlando. I guess they found Sal dead. Nope. Where's the lizard?
Outside?
At the pool? Alright. We're gonna have a meeting. Figure out what the fuck we're gonna do. Where have you been though, Ty? Come on. I need some water or something. We're doing this in the kitchen. Ty? He was ignoring me, and I reached out in vain as he continued into the dining room without breaking stride. I wonder if Ty knows what happened. I'm trying to be charitable and interpret these as cool characters that are interesting and so on. So I'm like, if this was cool, what would I think of? I would think that Ty is weirdly ignoring him and weirdly on a mission and powering through this interaction to make a specific outcome happen because he saw what Dave said to Sal and then saw Sal commit suicide and is now trying to create an alibi where we all discover together that Sal is dead, is what I think would be how you would write the good.
Yep. How are you two holding up?
Fine, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm fine too. I was still staring at the doorway Ty had disappeared through. Had I done something wrong? Had something happened?
Well, as far as we know, nothing has gotten any worse, so that's a plus. Not that it's gotten any better, either.
So we're having a meeting then? Is Tyson just deciding things now?
Maybe, but someone should be taking charge here. Either way, the idea is a good one.
Maybe.
We followed Tyson, spotting Benson already in the dining room.
Gathering together, are we?
Yeah, looks like it. Tyson wanted to have a meeting.
Very well, I'll go inform Master Oswin.
This response to that statement makes sense, but the opening statement,
Oh, you guys are gathering, huh?
weird fucking line. Weird line.
4 of you were in the same room, as you have been most of the day.
I assume he'll kick up a fuss if he's not included, and given this affects us all, it would be best if we were all in attendance, no?
He has not
Yes,
been...
that is what that's what gathering together means.
Yeah.
The thing that you started this conversation
Oswin
to talk
has gone
about.
out of his way to not be included the entire game. That's the point. So it's just like, what? Sure, okay, I'll tell Tyson. Toaster.
Oh, sorry.
I shall not take long to retrieve him.
His brain broke. Benson wandered out of the dining room and out of sight. Meanwhile, I looked to Haas or Orlando. Blah, 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 blah.
Pushy, isn't he?
Sure. He just noticed you guys are gathering and is like, I'll bring the other guy. We'll be gathered.
I guess what he said makes sense, though. Hopefully Tyson doesn't mind. I think I need a break from people being all...
He gestured with his hands to fill the rest of his sentiment. It'll be fine, right?
Only one way to find out.
Good padding. As we stepped into the kitchen, Tyson was leaning against the kitchen bench, deep in thought. When he noticed us, he straightened suddenly. All right, let's get this over with.
Wait, Benson's grabbing Oswin now.
Why the fuck is he doing that? Oh, when I said we were having a meeting, he kind of invited himself. Well, I'm not waiting. Fuck him. Tyson leaned back on the kitchen bench, looking at each of us in turn. Alright, so I have a couple of things I want to go over. I shrank back against the fridge, letting him speak. Meanwhile, Haas and Orlando took up places around the kitchen. First up, what's happening with Sal?
He's at the pool, or was when I was outside last.
I kept quiet, not wanting to say what had happened at the pool. If everything went as Sal said it would, then he wasn't a problem anymore. Well, great. So long as we know where he is, I guess that's fine. I don't think he'll go making any moves during the day, at least. Which is what I wanted to bring up next. I'm fucking tired with how much sleep I got last night, so what's the plan tonight?
I'm guessing because we can't get in contact with anyone? Otherwise the police would have arrived. Which means that our only option is to all be in the same room again tonight, right?
Right.
Bunking up together again? Not that I'm against it, but is that our only option? Why are you putting up a fight against us? What's the issue? What's the issue with bunking up together again? You should all
Not
just
that
sleep
I'm
in
a-
the same room every night. You're friends.
Not that I'm against it, but
Why?
you know, the but meaning I am against it, honestly. Yo, guys, mattresses can be moved. I don't expect you to be able to take the whole weird ornate bed frame into the next room, but you can just get all your mattresses and then you don't have to share a bed. And then no more sleepy problems. Just bring all of your bedding, just lay it out on those giant fucking floors. Problem solved. It's just gonna be a little warm in there. Not unless we wanted to do rotating shifts as lookout. I don't really mind, but does this mean we can maybe prepare a bit better so we're comfortable? The others looked at Tyson, and he was now not hiding the fact he was ignoring me, looking elsewhere.
Hey, knock that off. He asked you a question.
I heard him.
And? Davis' feelings too, you know.
Fine, we can get some blankets or something, or move some mattresses into the same room. Happy? I whined, but nodded slowly. No sooner had I done so that the door to the kitchen swung open with Benson leading Oswin through.
Having a meeting on what to do, are we? Well, far be it from me to exclude from such a thing.
To exclude from such a thing? Who says that? Tyson just grunted, shooting Oswin a sour look.
Now, what have you lot discussed without us?
Oswin and Benson really are just sprites from a different visual novel. Just looking at them next to Tyson right now, I'm like, these do not match, even a little bit. Why are they sideways? Why are they vertically higher up and further away? And what's really fucking with me right now is that he's clearly further away from the perspective of the sprite, but he's in front of Tyson. So I'm just like, no! Always put him on the back layer. Please, don't put him in front of Tyson. That's breaking the perspective is so fucked up right now. Sal came up and sleeping arrangements, really. Nothing else yet.
Then might I suggest we discuss about what to do with the deceased? All things considering, they should be returned to their families so burial is out of the question. However, storing them within the freezer will keep them preserved in a sense. It shouldn't harm any of the food stores we have in there. At least, this hasn't been an issue in any other instance this arrangement has needed to be made.
Okay, so
It
Benson
shouldn't
just
harm
does
any of-
this.
And there have been bodies in the freezer before.
Yep. He's just casually dropping that like it's a normal thing to say. Please, just put Oz behind Tyson, I'm begging you. No, he's doing it again. To be clear, he isn't referring to this specific freezer.
Oh heavens, no. But this is not the first time I've had to personally handle the storage of a body.
This is an organic introduction of me being an assassin.
From a life lived long ago to be sure, but nonetheless relevant experience for the situation at hand.
When someone talks like this, it kind of just makes them feel like they're just trying really hard to talk about themselves. Sneaking it in. Were you a doctor as well?
No.
Quite the opposite. But that's a story for another time. For now, I can confirm that the degradation of a body would be sufficient in a freezer such as this one. You say the preservation of a body. The degradation is the thing you're trying to stop. So it wouldn't be sufficient, because that's sufficient's a positive affirmation of a confirmed quality, not the lack thereof, whatever. Every one of us was quiet, wondering what was next. The immediate problems we had a solution to, but the bigger ones we were still drawing up a blank. Drawing up blank. Okay. Was there a way to contact someone? I thought about maybe a signal flare, before I remembered that if we could just solve the reception problem, we'd get someone to help out with the road problem. If we could just solve the reception problem, no biggie. How does it contradict the signal flare problem? Whatever. This train of thought is strange. A few times, a couple of us went to say something before going back to contemplating things, silent. For me, though, I had something on my mind. Something that I needed an answer to. I just didn't know how best to broach the subject. Us? Benson?
What is it?
There's something that's been bothering me since yesterday. I didn't really know what to think of it, and part of me kind of forgot with everything that's been happening.
Oh,
What's wrong? Did something else happen?
Not that I know of, but I wanted to ask you about the thing you had yesterday, the thing that Benson got you to do.
excuse me.
Right, that's the thing.
I looked to Orlando and Ty, both looking curious as to what I was talking about. What? Oh, right, but staying quiet. As for Oswin, he was seemingly making himself a cup of tea. So, what did Benson ask you to do? What was the thing?
Yes, Haas, I'd be very interested to know what it was that I asked you to do for me.
Haas bared his teeth at me, grumbling.
It was nothing. Don't worry about it.
I think we're long past this charade, my boy.
I know it's pronounced charade, but I'm just putting flavor on it because this text is dry as fuck.
It's true, I asked him to perform a task for me, to repair an old device of mine.
He put in that caveat before he becomes the Target of criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't think he knew exactly what he was getting into when I asked him.
Okay, but what was it? What does it do? I posed the question to Benson before returning to Haas when it was clear that he wasn't going to be the one to answer me. Haas, however, realized that he was put on the spot and continued to grumble, jaw clenched.
It's an ECM jammer. Huh.
A what?
It
stands for electronic countermeasure. In essence, it's a jamming device.
Wow, the jammer is a jammer. So then the lack of cell phone reception... Benson shook his head.
I can see why you'd think that, but no, this isn't my doing, nor is it the device's doing.
And why not? You had one, why not others? Why ask me to try and repair it?
Is this a skill Haas has? Repairing electronic devices?
I think about this a lot.
Is this a thing he does? I don't... This child actor who is young and loves anime knows how to repair electronic devices? I can field that one. Keeping such things is very illegal. But it just so happens that with enough financial lubrication, anything can be overlooked. Then you can the laws. But there are reasons beyond that. Such as what? To stop prying eyes, for one. But stopping telecommunications is one of their known issues. Indeed. But more than that... That was Benson. But more than that, it acts as a deterrent for anyone to wish to, say, use a remote detonator to cause a landslide. But that happened anyway.
Look, it doesn't matter. Sure, I shouldn't have hid this from everyone, but as far as we know, someone either is probably using one of these jammers to keep us here, or we're just very unlucky. No.
They're explicitly using a jammer.
They're explicitly using a jammer, and there's no reason to think you're just unlucky. That's not how this works.
Why are we introducing another jammer that's on our side that we're not using and could have been used to stop the explosion but wasn't used to stop the explosion and never will be because that would break the game? I don't think it's just being unlucky.
Neither do I.
And why do you say these things? Tyson sighed, shaking his head. Well, if we're fucked in that regard, best we can do is wait it out. That or we go find a way through the forest. If we had the choice, I'd rather not. Just in case we get lost, right? If Jean were still... No, if Jean was here, you still wouldn't do shit. You don't get to lean on these options. The room went quiet, all of us looking to the floor. Okay, well, at least we have food and shelter. But if it's alright with everyone, I think I'm done for the day. I'm gonna go to sleep.
But Dave...
No, I need a nap. Something. I sighed out, shaking my head and keeping my eyes trained on the floor. I'm almost at the point that I don't care if I'm in danger. I'm tired, I'm confused, I'm sad, and just... Slumping my shoulders, I breathed out, turning on my heel and headed out the kitchen. As I trudged forward, I reached the base of the stairs before stopping, thinking things over. But that's when I heard the footsteps behind me. I riled myself up, assuming it was Orlando or Tyson chasing after me. Leave me alone. I'm fine. Yes, I'm sure you're completely fine with how you're lashing out at me, Dave. Oh, it's you. We should have a chat. Your friends are concerned about you and don't know how to help. Well, I don't want to talk. Then, far be it from me to force you to do anything, but you're causing undue panic. Sure. And Tyson's ignoring me. 2 of my friends are dead. Another is isolating himself at the pool for being the one behind it. I'm so sorry if I'm not being the most mindful right now. I don't know if I'm tired and going to bed over the people that died is causing undue panic. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I was growling at him, choosing to focus my attention his way for lack of any other option. So just fuck off. I don't care. He just watched me, quirking a brow before stepping forward calmly. His hands were held in his pockets right up until he lashed out and grabbed me roughly by the ear. Now you listen here, boy, and you listen well. I whined, his grip rough and tight. He pulled me closer, voice brought down to a whisper, the rage in his voice clear. Are you wanting to make things difficult? Do you want to stress those you care about that much?
Whoa, this
that
is
they make
so
poor
fresh
decisions
from this idiot. Oh my god.
Yeah.
The Oz has
the
been the one
room,
explicitly
says
making
Oz.
things difficult. Oh my lord.
That's just... They didn't write any characters, so they don't have scenes, because you just can't have scenes without characters. You just need characters, and then those characters will naturally create scenes, like in Dead Laws. But if you don't have any characters, then you just flounder and make up conflicts where people yell and are confused and then say they have no other choice, and then they wait around more, and then they keep having conflicts, but not really. And you can swap out who's having the conflict most of the time because no one has a personality. No? Then pull yourself together. Pull yourself together damn quick. We have nothing to do. We've got so much nothing to do. He let go of my ear and pulled me in close, hugging me tight. Something broke in me and I whined aloud and unrestrained. Times are tough, boy, but don't fight this fight alone. Take it from someone that made the same mistake. He let me go and took a step back, watching me carefully. I was trembling under his gaze, and eventually he turned and left back in the direction of the kitchen. What had just happened? Why had Oswin done that? I braced myself on the railing of the stairs. My heart ached in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I wasn't sure how much of it was because of what was happening or because of some deeper yearning I was feeling. I wanted my older brother. I wanted Tyson. Uh-huh.
So this is the moment in the story, just to be clear, in this is the moment in the story, in this version of the story, where Dave fully becomes just this. Just becomes fully unhinged and begins calling Tyson his brother 100%.
What if I go crazy? A little crazy. Aren't you tired? Don't you want to go ape shit? Choking on my thoughts, I stumbled up the stairs in a daze until I made my way to the bed. I don't know how long I slept for. Minutes, hours, it could have been days. All that greeted me, they keep saying that all the time. They rely so much on their time. Like, I have no idea what the passage of time is. Anyway, it's this time. all that greeted me when I closed my eyes was endless, heavy black. At some point I heard movement in my room, or at least somewhere nearby. It wasn't enough to wake me, or maybe I was too tired to care. Part of me wondered if I had resigned myself to my fate, as if it was something more dangerous. Okay. That's a lot of coherency and consciousness for somebody who's asleep.
I'm struggling with a lot of this.
Uh-huh. But eventually I opened my eyes. Huh? Oh. It's you. I rolled over onto my side, facing away from him. I didn't know why he was here, and part of me was still hurt that he was ignoring me before. You doing okay? Go away. Okay, so I was an asshole. He wandered over and sat on the bed, dropping his weight down on it enough to make me look back at him. It hurt. I don't know why you were ignoring me during the meeting, but what did I do wrong? Nothing, just I need to focus more on the others. Something's not sitting right with me. I stayed quiet, opting instead to just listen. That's what that means. That's what staying quiet means. I'm gonna ask you something, and you have to be honest with me. No bullshit, alright? Okay? Did you know about Orlando's family? No, I just always assumed they were bankers. Why would I think anything else if that's what he told me? He sighed out, shaking his head. Look, I'm gonna say something, and it's going to hurt, or just straight up suck. Okay? Did you know about Orlando's family? No, it's just the entire basis of why we're friends today, is that I knew about Orlando's family. Whoops. I readied myself, wondering what it could be. I love you. He was right. It did suck. Maybe even hurt a little. Not like this. I didn't want to be told that. Like this. None of these circumstances. Oh. Don't go rushing to say it back or anything. My voice trailed off, unsure what I should say, or if I was allowed to say anything back to that. Point is, now more than ever I've got your back. But I don't trust the others, not after what happened. What are you trying to say, Ty? That one of them is going to try killing? Yeah, and I don't want those fuckers thinking you're an easy target. But they wouldn't. And we saw what happened with Sal. I don't know if he suddenly went nuts or was drugged with something and was tripping. Point is, no reason the others couldn't. Including you? Yeah, including me, but that's why I want to take you and bail. Head back home, just the two of us. But I can't. Not without the others. And I'm letting you know right now, one way or another, I'm going to be dragging your ass home. I ain't breaking the promise I made to your dad. I whined, shaking my head. Can I have a day to think about it? Just the reflex to pad for time. A day, huh? Just one, just to think about it? I'm not giving you a choice if you're coming or not. He got up off the bed and sighed out. Look, it's late. If you want to eat anything, find me. I'll take you down to the kitchen and make you something. You guys didn't already have dinner? I ate. Made my own food because I wasn't going to let the other two mess with it. Just like how I'm not letting you eat anything you didn't see getting made. Oh, but I like Orlando's cooking. I want ice cream. We both like you alive, Dave. He left before I could retort, closing the door behind him. I didn't like what position he left me in, and I wondered what options I had. Thinking back to earlier, to Oswin, I wondered what he'd say. We were meant to have a meeting tonight anyway, but all things considered, perhaps we'd be— Stop saying that! We'd be willing to show me sooner? He can't stop typing all things considered. It was just in his brain. I made my way to the conservatory, figuring I'd just trace my steps back. As I stepped in, though, Oswin was there, just looking out the window. He looked at me, curious, gesturing me to come closer. You slept the day away. Are you feeling better? A little. Everyone's on edge, more so after your departure.
You really keep everyone together, Dave, so if you take naps, you have to be responsible about it. Orlando and Tyson have simultaneously been at each other's throats and trying to conspire to make you feel better. What? Yeah? Tyson just came and woke me up. But I wanted to talk to you about that. They're at each other's throats and conspiring to make you feel better. What does that mean? Whatever. Go on. He wants to leave, just the two of us, but... He sighed out, shaking his head. Well, you're both welcome to try, but from what I've heard of the road from Benson, that way is out. Your only option would be to go through the forest, and perhaps find a way down the mountain that way. I think that's what he was planning, or at least where he's likely to try and go. Even though he can definitely cross the rubble. Then a word of caution. Those woods are dangerous, which is why nothing has ever happened to anyone in them. But finding a way off the mountain is indeed possible. Dangerous how? Do you know how to navigate the wilderness? Or fend off wild animals that don't seem to exist in practicality? When are you leaving? During the night is going to be additionally problematic given the dark. Wow, thanks, buddy. I have a flashlight! But does Tyson? Where does that leave your friends?
Do you not have flashlights in the fucking house? What? What?
I have a flashlight.
I just don't understand.
It's just a dumb response because obviously still trying to leave at night would be bad with a flashlight. Just don't do that. Just don't. It's easy.
I don't...
Uh-huh.
No.
I frowned, looking downstairs. Tyson's not giving me a choice.
Does he need to be sedated? I can retrieve something from the lab to knock him out. He's proving to be an issue. Now that I think about it, it might do him some good.
No, that's fine. Just, I figured I'd come see how you were doing instead, really. If you still wanted to show me that thing in your lab.
There's nothing left to show, not after what happened.
What do you mean? Did someone get in, or...?
More like the reason I wanted to show you now is now meaningless, given what happened before. It's there, but it's best we leave it undisturbed for now.
He stepped forward and placed a hand on my shoulder.
Ultimately, it was self-serving to my own curiosity. Don't worry about it.
Oh. Okay.
Besides, the lab itself has been sealed for now. You need me to unlock the door for you, and I'm in no rush to enter that space again.
I grumbled, thinking about where that left me.
Were you looking for me to convince you to stay? I said before I'm looking forward to all of you leaving this place one way or another, so long as that's alive, mind you.
He pulled away, taking a few strides towards the door before turning back.
If you feel like having a chat, come join me in the backyard. I feel like enjoying the night air for a bit.
Oh, it's nighttime now.
I can't tell, because, you know,
it's a conservatory for daylight. I watched as he left, before turning to the bookcase leading to the library. If he'd already sealed off the library, there was nothing left for me down that way aside from darkness and a lot of books. I wasn't even hungry. I wasn't even hungry. It was still just exhaustion from dealing with everything else. Looking out the window at the backyard, I wondered what happened with Sal while I was asleep. If anyone had spoken to him after I did. The thought made my stomach flip, and I backed off, now wondering if I had let my anger get to me. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.